Oh, about to say it looked like it froze again, but nope, it did not. It
I
is
just gave away
time
the
for another
secret.
Thursday, and yes, we're going to talk comics today. Why? Because Cliff got a good topic. I want to let him
Yay,
take over.
Cliff! Yay, Cliff!
I do.
Yeah, you got a
Oh,
good
yeah.
topic. You remember what you said you're going to
you
talk about?
you suggested tonight's show. Come on, dude.
That's right. Okay, so y'all just said that where if they don't like it, they'll blame me. I see how it is.
No,
Um,
they won't.
no,
They
I
will like it.
suggested.
They will like it. I bet you people will like it, and people are going to share what they like.
Yes.
I just suggested for a topic tonight if we all went around and talked about some of our go-to comics, not necessarily your favorites or not necessarily the one you always have to buy. Your go-to, you reread it, no matter what, you'll always go back to it. Stories. It can be an entire run. It can be just one graphic novel, one story, whatever. Just what a chance to talk about and gush over some of the books that you read all the time. You'll always go back and reread. In other words, my selfish way to talk about stuff I read because I'm behind on all my modern comics. So.
And I
Well, you're
realized
not
I
the only
shifted
one.
all
You're
my
not the only one.
aliens
I
on the bus.
slowly clean out this back rack here. So the next thing that's really on my stack to read is this whole Luchaverse Catalyst, this 3-issue miniseries. That's the next thing on my read list.
Well, aside from making myself start reading Tom Taylor's Nightwing, if I'm going by the in the order I buy the books in,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just now reading books from when the New 52 ended.
Oh wow, you're almost like you're
I'm
still
real
like
far behind.
almost like 2 years behind dealing with Rebirth.
Yes. I
I
mean, I
haven't.
know what's going on. I'm not that lost, but yeah, I'm just get behind because I'm like, oh, I'll read it later. I'll read it later. Next thing I know, there's like 5 long boxes. I'm like, oh,
Is DC versus Vampires New 52 or is that post?
uh, it's
That's
post.
free.
That I forgot. That's the only other thing
I
that's.
thought it was pre New 52 or during New 52.
It
I,
was.
I
It
have
was
no
what
idea.
James Tennant. It's what James Tennant the fourth pitched to be his comic he did because he didn't want to do the 5G initiative when they were going to do it. So it's
Ah,
whatever that time frame is. And
gotcha.
that one, and the only reason I'm reading that one is because it's Nightwing adjacent, from what I understand. So I just
Oh,
went ahead and read
yes.
it. So
Yeah. I won't tell you how, but yes, it is definitely Nightwing adjacent.
yes, but yeah. So I thought it'd be a fun little topic, and it was my go-to just in case one of our laptops was broken and one of us was in the bathroom this week too. So
That's the life of a comic book collector. I can
H.
honestly say I probably have read maybe at best 30% of my collection.
Wolfgang thinks that was very funny.
Yep.
yes, yes. So no, that was my suggestion, and if it and I'll take the blame if it turns out to be a train wreck. It's completely my cat's fault. So
So, you want to start us off?
I can. I mean, I've got. I figured we could all like go round table and do a few as we go or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
just so I don't have just like all DC books, I did go and find one of my go-to non-DC books. I do not recommend anyone to read this if they don't have like either a really good sick sense of humor or a really strong stomach. I'm just telling that in
Okay.
advance. But it's from Avatar Press. Karen Gillian's Uber.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
It is an alternate history of World War II.
Okay.
In April of 45, when the Allies are right outside of Berlin, um, the war turns around because German scientists found I don't remember the word they use it, basically a ancient alien tablet that shows them how to make superhumans.
Uh-oh.
And so it starts a superhuman arms race during World War II. Um, and it's gory as all get out, and it's vulgar. Um, But I mean, it's really good because Kieran Gillen does a very good job of showing the mentality of the different leaders of World War II. Like the catalyst that you use to discover who can be, as they call it, activated, is 1 in every 5,000 people could be activated or become a superhuman. So instead of sitting up there and trying to do the math and figure it out, the Nazis experimented on the people in the concentration camp and found, okay, well, this one, let's dissect them and see why they're different before they started doing it on German soldiers. And Stalin used prisoners of war and so on and forth, so forth. And it's just a really good story. It kind of fizzled out towards the end because Karen Gillian started writing Darth Vader for Marvel and realized he liked Star Wars money. So it kind of fizzled towards the end. I'm pretty sure the final graphic novel never came out, which I think also has to do with Avatar's problems. But I mean, overall, if you just want a good, I like World War II history. I'm kind of I find that entire era fascinating because of what all happened and the ramifications, and just the idea that one little failed painter from Austria could convince an entire country to wipe out a race of people. I thought that's just it's fascinating to me that humans could go that way. And so this is one with superpowers. I'm like, sign me up. And it's really good. But again, if you've never read anything from Avatar Press, just prepare yourself. It is definitely an M-rated comic. Um, but I think now, because I have all the trades, I think they have like a big omnibus of the whole series. So if you ever want to go back and read it, I think you can find it fairly cheap. But yeah, don't read it if you're not like, okay, I'm just going into this knowing it's trash and I'm gonna be offended by something. So
Is this Kieran Gillian or Karen Gillian?
Kieron, Kieran. I
Okay,
never knew
Karen. Because I was thinking Karen Gillian is what's her name in
Amy
Doctor
Pond.
Who? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't know she was writing comics.
Yes, I thought that for a while myself until I saw the spelling of both. But yeah, it's a good series. Once they leave like completely behind World War II and it becomes its own alternate history, like when they invade America and the Americans, when they find out how to make superhumans, because of the times, they had to make sure that no African American got any, because what will this colored feller do in the battlefield to us white folks? So it hit that note too, but it was, I don't know, it kind of lost steam when they invaded America because it was like I could have done without seeing New York caught on fire. I kind of liked it being in the theater battle it was set in, but outside of that, it's a good story if you like that kind of thing, and if you don't, yeah, don't read it. It's bad.
I'll
See,
see if
Like
I
when
can find
that
an
will make
issue
me
or two.
not want to read it.
I will see if I can find an issue or two on Kindle, and if I like it, I'll talk to James at First Aid about getting some copies.
See, that last part makes me not want to read it because
like
that means
the
they minimize the whole thing about Tuskegee at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they ended up getting some African American thing, but they're different levels. Like they named them after warships. So like a battleship was like the top of the line Superman level superhero or superhuman, and it went down the list. And they never wanted an African American battleship, even though they ended up with one because it made the story better. But that was they had it in different levels. I can't remember all of them, but the funny part to me was when the British were the first ones to find out about it because they had the code crackers.
Yeah.
And they made their first battleship, and it fought one of the German battleships at the end of the first trade. And because they were brand new and they didn't know what they were doing, the Nazi battleship just wrecked this poor dude. He looked like, if you've ever watched The Thing from John Carpenter, and when they all burst out and they're just like pieces everywhere. He looked like that by the time the battle was over. but because he was a Superman level character, he wasn't dead.
Ooh.
It took over 5 hours of drilling with an industrial drill through what was left of his brain to kill him. So it's that level of gore.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, Avatar Press. If you've never read any of their stuff, they're the ones that made Garth Ennis's Crossed and all of Alan Moore's stuff no one else would print. So
Okay.
they do a lot of like really risky comics, and Uber's no different. It's just not as bad as Crossed and some of the other ones like that. So,
Got it.
but that's the
It's
only DC
Cross get
non-DC
very
one.
offensive. Cross does get offensive, very
okay.
offensive quickly.
But it
When I
Quickly.
sounds there's an
When I
anime where they have these girls that are also battleships,
Mhm,
and they're different groups based on
mhm,
World War II that are battling.
mhm,
So there are the American ships, the German ships, the English, the Japanese, stuff
mhm.
like that. But they're girls, but they can also they can partially to fully turn into battleships and do
Right.
battle with each other.
Mm.
That's when you're saying that use battleship names, it's like that was
Mhm.
the first thing that came to mind, and I can't
Right.
remember the name of the anime. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's a good read if you can get past some of the stuff. Like when I first heard about it, I was interested, and I told my LCS owner that I wanted to pick it up, and because it was from Avatar and it was an Avatar book, he's like, "I'm not
Oh,
bringing that in my store," so I had to hunt it down
oh,
from somewhere
oh
else.
no.
But yeah, because we also had mentioned Cross in the same conversation because I'd heard about it too, and he was like, "We may not be friends anymore." I was like, "Oh, okay." And
That's
then I
like,
found out, why. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry I asked you about that." So yeah.
well, if you find a comic you want to check out, you can sometimes find like the Kindle edition on
Mhm.
Amazon, and
Right.
and then you can get a print copy if you really like it. But
Right.
I like to honor James, but sometimes it's like let me check out the Kindle because sometimes I get free comics on Kindle.
Hmm.
So I'll check it out because that's how I got into DC versus Vampires.
Hmm.
They gave me a couple of free, they're like they were like comic book pushers. It's like, yeah, we'll get her hooked, and then we'll
That's
make you
right.
pay. It was
Yeah.
like, give me books, give me books.
Yeah, but like yeah, it's like I said, it's worth reading. There's a lot. I mean, it goes completely off typical history because one of the German battleships uh, doesn't like Hitler, and so when he got a meeting with the Fuhrer, he used his power to give him a heart attack
Ew,
and kill him. So they had someone else pretending to be Hitler the rest of the series,
God,
and they uh they wanted to ramp up the shock and awe, so they sent their female battleship into the middle of London, and she destroyed Big Ben, the palace, the Buckingham Palace, everything, and then she broke into the bunker and tore Winston Churchill's head off and put it on top of a statue in the middle of the park and left. Just walked out of the country.
damn.
So yeah, it's bad on that level, but it's if you like out there stuff or World War II stuff, it's a good read. So,
I'm kind of ashamed to show my stuff now,
oh
Joe.
no, that
I don't
was the
really.
only like I said, that's the only non-DC thing on my list because I didn't want to just come off like that's all I read.
I don't have
But
any DC stuff on my list, so
okay,
you're not alone. But
I thought I just thought it was going to be a discussion. I wasn't ready to pull books and stuff to that magnitude. To be quite
oh,
honest with you.
okay.
So you could go. You
I
could go next away.
Oh, okay. Well, none of my books are DC or Marvel. Um, this I was at the 57th Street Art Fair on Sunday, and since I come west to get there, the first stop is Powell's Books. And anybody who hangs out in the Hyde Park area knows Powell's. If you're looking for something interesting to find that won't cost you an arm and a leg, Powell's is the place to go. So, and I realized that I had a little money in my pocket, and if I wanted to get something from Powell's, I needed to do it before I got to the art fair. And along with a copy of the Canterbury Tales, which is a book I love, I got Peanuts. This is the complete. This is the complete Peanuts omnibus, 1953 to 1954. They are printing these out. You can get them in these omnibuses, and we're a collection of 2 years. Um, this is before my oldest and I are big Peanuts fans, and this is I wasn't born until 1961, by the way, not like 1901. But um, I've loved Peanuts since I read the comic strip as a kid. And I just love this collection. In fact, I gave this to my oldest, so he gave it back to me just for tonight. And then when the show is over, I have to give it back or he'll kill me. So if y'all don't ever hear from me again, you know what happened. And you know to call the cops and go looking for my body. But there are some great old comics, and I love it because this is early Peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see. Let me get a little closer.
Wait, actually, let me blow it up where everybody can see it.
Yeah, the artwork is a bit. It's not as refined as later editions of the strip, but I kind of like that. You know, the humor is a little raw. The artwork is a little raw, and I love this. Um, Only 3 years old, and I'm forced to go commercial.
Yep.
You know, I just love that. And Peanuts are one of those things like when I'm feeling down in the dumps and Helsing Ultimate Abridged will not lift my spirits. There are times when that happens. Peanuts I have 3 go-tos. Peanuts is one.
Well, before you go into the other ones, I do have a question that's going to start an argument.
Oh man.
Who was the better best friend to Charlie Brown? Franklin or Linus? Only people who read the comic strip would know that Franklin was also Charlie Brown's best friend. He had 2.
He was Charlie Brown's very close friend. Though Linus had been his friend much longer.
Right.
And, you know, we don't dump the girl we come to the dance with if we've got brains. But I think one of the things I always loved about Franklin was that Franklin would give him a perspective that Linus sometimes couldn't on things.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love because Franklin would give him a perspective from his point of view. Linus, of course, being the introspective person that he is, always had some little bon mot to share. So I never, it's like I have friends. I've had friends I've known for like ages. I don't quantify those friendships. Each of those friendships have a purpose in my life. And so and it's, I'm a woman. Maybe we do it differently. I don't sit there and say, well, Joe's a better friend than Cliff or Clyde. Even though you let me share your booth at C2E2 and I forget that. But the relationships are different, and I don't ever want to try to pit people against each other. You need to be the better friend than this person. So this person is a better friend than you because blah blah blah. If that makes sense, I try not to go there. However, if you guys want to verbally do this out, I'm gonna just sit back and I'm gonna talk to Wolfie. Y'all have fun.
What about you, Cliff? How do you feel about that question? Because I know what my answer is.
I really don't have a dog in this fight. I'm gonna say Peppermint Patty.
Oh wow, you're gonna bring up Peppermint Patty? Wow.
Well, I mean,
Peppermint Patty was the better
Peppermint
friend
Patty,
than all of them. Wow.
Peppermint Patty's that friend that you have that gets you out of your comfort zone and gets you to do
Yes.
stuff you normally wouldn't do,
Yes.
and will be there for you to bail you out when they did it to you. So Peppermint Patty, final answer, or Marcy, because you never discount the quiet one. Um,
Peppermint Patty will take you to the dangerous side of town to that party you should have never walked in at, but she will make sure you get out of it alive.
Yeah,
You
yes,
may have a few
agree. I
bruises,
would agree
but
with that.
she will get you. She will get you out alive. You know.
but
So
then
yeah,
she'll blame she'll but then she'll blame you for being there.
Yeah,
why did you let me take you there to begin with? You know.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But
I was like, I relied on you, Chuck. I relied on you to give me good advice there. But where were you, Chuck? Chuck, tell me, why weren't you being
why
the
weren't you
good
being the
wise friend, Chuck?
responsible one? Which is a fair better shot than Lucy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because Lucy is the one who will take you to a cliff, smile, and push you off it.
Mhm.
And tell you, hope you got a parachute.
Yep.
Yeah.
You
And,
know, I just
or she'll be the one that takes you to the bad part of town party and then leaves.
yes, she will leave you
Mm-hmm.
there. And
Yep.
if you make it home, you know, she'll go, see, you learned something. It's like, yeah, like not to trust your bitch ass.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I'm sorry. Lucy is definitely not the best friend type because Lucy also, when it comes to putting Charlie Brown down, she tends to be the ringleader.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, she tends to be the
In a
ringleader.
weird way, she kind of likes Charlie Brown. It's kind of like
And
that
I
love
get
hate
that
thing.
she's into him, but it's that, you know, friends and I had a discussion a few weeks ago about boys who pick on other boys, who bully them unnecessarily. And after giving it quite a bit of thought, it hit me. It's like sexual attraction. The boys who will single out a specific boy, they usually single out the boy who is smaller, more slender, almost female in his body type and presentation. He has a he's got a softer temperament. The boy that they pick on tends to be the opposite of them. And I have come to surmising that maybe some of this has a sexual overtone.
I
He
can see
has an
that.
interest in this boy. He doesn't know how to deal with that interest, that attraction. So, and he can't go talk to his dad. You know, the men around town go, "You're a sissy." So he
Mhm.
can't go talk to them. The people he should be able to talk to, whether it's a teacher or whatever, he can't talk to them either because he knows that they're going to put him down, or he's just afraid of, in regards to a teacher, that they may then go tell a parent out of concern, and the next thing you know, it's even worse. Um, and so when you've got, because it's very much the same as when boys pick on little girls.
Mhm.
It is almost in that same level of energy. You have an attraction to the little girl. You don't know how to deal with that attraction. So instead of being able to walk up and say hi, you lose it and you start um, you're attracted and you hate the fact that you're attracted, especially if she doesn't fit the norm.
Mm.
You know, the jock guy who goes after the quiet girl, not because she's done anything. Because when you often look at these boys from a psychological perspective, the kids that they go after are kids who haven't done anything to them. These kids don't
Mhm.
talk to them. They're usually kids, often smarter, minding their own business, just trying to get through the day without any sort of altercation. And these are the ones they pick out. They zero in on them, and it's almost, to some degree, it can be psychotic. And I have often come to wonder, it's like, is there some sort of component? There's an attraction. They don't know how to deal with that attraction. And judging from the men around them and how they act, the reaction is cruelty, it's violence. I see, it's like when I see parents posting pictures of their 1-year-old arguing and sassing them. I don't know where he gets it from. It's like, baby, who is he with all day? He's with you all day. That's where he gets it from. The child is picking up what you're doing. There, if the dad doesn't, if the dad, yeah, he may be married to the mom, but the minute he gets in from work, he's on her. Why isn't my dinner ready? This isn't the dinner I want. You didn't make the dinner right. It's if he's looking for a fight, because the kid doesn't know any better. He doesn't understand it. And the church kind of puts a blind eye to marital relations. So long as he's not killing, so long as she doesn't show up with, she's half dead, or she's got, broken bones or something, they kind of turn a blind eye to it. So the kid only has what he watches at home. So if dad's putting mom down and constantly on her and in her face, if that's all the kid sees, then when he goes to school and he finds someone, he's going to ape that behavior. I could be wrong.
That kind of goes. That kind of goes along with
it's weird. I'm not going to go there because I can say that. I can say exactly that with Peppermint Patty.
Mm-hmm.
Because tomboys are exactly that way. Because tomboys would try to do the exact thing that other boys would do to other boys just to get their attention.
And it's like, it's interesting. I always think Peppermint Patty is bi, because every time you turn around, she's in Charlie Brown's face. But at the same time, she drags Marcy to everything.
Yeah.
Marcy's like, well, if I can't get the guy, I got my ball back. So I always think Peppermint Patty is bi. Yeah. She'll settle for Marcy if she can't get Charlie Brown. It's like, girl. And the thing is, and I used to wonder about that, but then I had seen PBS about 16 years or so ago did a documentary on Charles Schulz. And they talked about, and he was a man fraught with psychosis. He really, he was really going through it. And Charlie Brown and the gang kind of was his way of kind of letting that out and dealing with it with a sense of humor. But it didn't make life, easy for his loved ones. It did not make life easy for them.
Nope, not at all. But I'm going to say, I got a lot to say about Peanuts, because I look at a lot of the relationships and everything. It was a lot deeper than what it is for a kid's cartoon strip, to be quite honest here.
Well, they all were. If you think of anything that was made back then, whether it was classic Warner Brothers cartoon, classic Disney, Crazy Cat.
Yep. Oh, Crazy Cat was before its time.
Oh, Betty Boop. All of these things. In fact, a lot of what we now think of as children's entertainment, when you think about, say, whether it's the early Warner Brothers or even Hoppity Hooper or Rocky and Bullwinkle, that was always made with a more sophisticated adult sensibility. They wrapped it up in a way that could be fobbed off as children's entertainment. But there is a lot of, especially if you think about fractured fairy tales, there's
the old fairy tale was on a whole different level. But I want to stick with Peanuts for right now, because I want to really talk about what I see a lot in Peanuts. Man. I don't think a lot of people would agree, but they see the things that I've seen here. Like
Okay.
the original question is like, who was the better best friend? I always go with Franklin because Franklin always told Charlie Brown the rough, harsh truth. Even though it came from a different perspective, Franklin always told him the truth. Unlike Linus, Linus sometimes tell him what he wants to hear and then back it up with some type of aloof riddle or philosophy behind it.
Well,
Franklin always told him, it's like point blank, it's this way. Like it or
um,
hate it, it's this way. I understand how you may not like it, but here, here's the perspective on it.
but I will say, in Linus's defense, there have been times when Linus has smacked back at Charlie Brown. If you think about the
Oh,
Great Pumpkin,
I'm not
you
saying
know,
that he never did.
Charlie ragging on Linus about the Great Pumpkin, and Linus turns around and is like, "Yeah, let's talk about Christmas. The fat man who comes down with the presents, going ho ho ho." So Linus, it. I think for Linus, it was, if you push him, he's gonna push back.
Yes.
But he tries in many ways to give those truths in a softer way.
Compared
Franklin
to Franklin.
is
Yeah, compared to Franklin, he
Franklin is
always did.
very straightforward, and I think, if I remember correctly, Schultz based that off some folks that he knew. And so whenever he had something about what would Franklin say, he would go back to those few Black people he knew and go, okay, how would they respond? And that's how he would actually, I think for Franklin, he actually did ask some people that he know, I'm doing this, and Franklin says, this is that okay? So he was trying in regards to Franklin, because otherwise he wanted to feel that he had a reason for Franklin to be there. It wasn't just, I'm having a Black kid, so there's a Black kid in the strip. It's like Franklin had a part, just like all the other characters. Franklin had a specific part to play, and he was the truth teller.
He was the harsh truth teller and allowed Charlie Brown to be himself.
Yeah,
Around Franklin, he was never the blockhead. He was just Charlie Brown.
yeah. Because even Linus has on occasion called him a blockhead.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never that with Franklin. And that's because Franklin himself knew what it was to be othered.
Mm-hmm.
So because he understood what it was to be othered, he wasn't going to other someone else. I always felt that Franklin, yeah, he represented the Black community, but I've known gay people who kind of see bits of themselves in Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin, for a lot of people who felt other, Franklin was that Peanuts character that they could attach to, because they kind of felt like, well, I've been othered for whatever reason.
Like for example, the only reason I pick on Franklin a lot is because I had to understand the dynamics of him after, every time I see the Thanksgiving special for Charlie Brown, and everybody's up there, it's like, why is Franklin always by himself on the other side of the table? And I was like, you know what? That's a good question. And I was like always pawning off about the actual time frame and what the Peanuts was set in, but it really wasn't that. It really wasn't that. It was just more along the lines. That's the type of character that he played, because the rest of the Peanuts gang really didn't hang around Franklin like that on a normal basis. Even within the inner circle, he was kind of off to the side. He was
Yeah,
never part of the,
he was
if
never
Schroeder
part of
wasn't
the
around,
original group.
Schroeder would not typically acknowledge Franklin in the room. A lot of the characters would not acknowledge Franklin in the room here. It's only a handful of people that would have known. If they saw Franklin, they was like, oh, hey, Franklin, how's it going?
They would have talked to Pigpen more than they would have talked to Franklin.
Talk to Franklin. Yep.
I always thought of it as and I grew up at an interesting time. So it's, they're the kids who they, there were two types of kids. There were the kids who they would always show up at your door, but you weren't
Exactly,
going to them.
Carl.
You
That
weren't
was another
allowed to
character that
show
was,
up at theirs.
yeah, that was another character that was a standoffish character, was Pigman. I mean,
Yeah, I was
he
thinking
wasn't smelly. He wasn't smelly. He was just always dirty.
he was always dirty. He was never smelly or offensive. It was
Mhm.
just he was dusty.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
yeah, he probably did, because if you think about Charlie Brown's world is decidedly middle class. You know, his grandmother lives in a condominium. I hadn't heard of a condominium until Charlie Brown Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
because I'd never heard the word condominium used before then.
Yep.
So because when they were at the end of it, they're in the station wagon, and you can't sit kids in a station wagon like that anymore. Where they're
Mm-mm.
just kind of sitting in a little roundabout way at the back of the station wagon. And they were like, and they're singing over the river and through the woods, and Charlie Brown's upset, and I think it's Linus. It's like, what's wrong? He goes, well, my grandmother lives in a condominium. And I had to I had to go learn what a condominium was.
Right.
Because I didn't get that. But that was also one of the great things about children's entertainment. You were always learning something. You were always getting something. You know, like I said, as a young girl growing up, Warner Brothers, I gained a love of classical music. Tom and Jerry, classical jazz, symphonic jazz. I loved symphonic jazz. And Tom and Jerry, the classic stuff, I'm talking the older stuff, not the newer stuff, was rife with it. Just like Warner Brothers had a ton of classical music, Tom and Jerry had a lot of symphonic jazz. And I loved that. I gained a love of both those things because they were in cartoons that I loved. Excuse me.
Now, the second thing that I want to bring up was the big, if I could say, love triangle slash affair of Charlie Brown that
Uh,
most people does not get here, because we already talked about Peppermint Patty, because Peppermint Patty it was obvious that Peppermint Patty had a crush on Charlie Brown.
So did Lucy. Lucy was so into Charlie Brown she couldn't stand herself.
No, that's part of the problem here. Because remember, Lucy liked Charlie Brown, but you have people like Violet and Charlotte, and I forgot who the other one. So
Yeah.
Lucy was more along the lines of that stereotypical girl who's like, hey, I like this guy over here, and the best friends would be like, oh, he's such this and he's such that, he's no good, blah 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 blah. And, will have all these different rumors to put out there to keep their one friend from liking a guy that she should be liking. And then I can't, what was the name of the little redheaded girl that he always couldn't remember the
She
name
never
of?
had a name. She was just always the little
And,
redhead.
and the older in the older versions, no, she never had a name. But in the
Oh,
new
she
one, I
did.
remember
Yeah,
in one of the movies
I
they
think
gave her a name.
It's a Valentine's special they did. They gave her a name, and I can never remember it. Because but and
Now,
I used to hope that he and the little redheaded girl would, hit it off, so
for the
that.
longest time,
Okay.
I was always confused because there was that one little red-haired girl who had the curls and was always talking about her naturally curly red hair.
Oh yes, her. Yes.
And then there was the little red-haired girl. And for a while, I was like, why does Charlie Brown like this curly-haired chick that's such a pain in the ass to him? And then I was like, oh, the other
And then
little
they
red-haired
finally
girl.
showed the little redheaded girl, and she's like a little
Yes.
fairy tale princess,
Hmm.
you know. But Lucy doesn't trust her own judgment.
Right.
She doesn't trust her own judgment. She isn't she's worse than a mean girl. She's a mean girl total. Because seriously, she's a mean girl toady. She follows the mean girl's example.
Mhm.
She doesn't set an example herself. She follows their examples. Oh, Charlie Brown did this. It was interesting. Oh my goodness, that blockhead. Yeah, he's a blockhead. She's easily led. She only shows independence in the face of either Charlie Brown, where she's always trying to exert dominance, or her own brother.
Oh, her own brother always gets me and
Linus.
everything, but it's just so obvious that, like I said, because she followed that mean girl crew,
Yeah.
they're keeping her away from Charlie Brown, because on one-on-one, especially with the football gag, that is just her way of trying to get Charlie Brown's attention more so than
She
anything
wants
else.
his attention, and she knows if she ever lets him kick that football, that's it. He doesn't have any more need for her. If he ever wises up and realizes, oh, she's just taking his money. She's taking his money, and she's never going to let him kick that football. If he ever got to kick that football, she wouldn't know what to do with herself. If she ever let him kick that football, she would lose it, because
or every time that they play baseball, the grief that she gives him for not being the best player coach there is, or the player manager there is for their team.
And yet she is, every time something has to happen, he's the first person she puts up for the job. Charlie Brown Christmas, she decides he's going to be, oh, okay.
Yep. Axman is working on a 2-page comic. Cool.
Batman parody comic.
Yep.
But Charlie Brown Christmas, she puts him up first to be the director of the play. And then rags on him and doesn't follow his, and everybody's supposed to be following her lead, and of course she doesn't follow his lead. So it's like she puts him there so she can totally disrespect him. Every time
I just think about the Christmas tree.
She can totally disrespect him.
But that's her way to
she's keeping him close.
Mm-hmm.
But she can't let him, if she lets him prove himself, then maybe the early girls might like him too, and then she's got competition.
Well, that's the reason why Peppermint Patty is so much competition for her, because it's like a double whammy. Because Peppermint Patty is like, come on, Chuck, you're good at this. Go ahead and do it. Prove everybody wrong. Prove everybody wrong, Chuck. Go ahead and do it. Come on, Chuck. We know you got this, Chuck. It's like, why is she setting him up to fail?
But it's also interesting when you see Peppermint Patty. They don't often put Peppermint Patty and Lucy acting directly with each other. They don't interact for the most part. It's either, he's in a situation that's Lucy centric, or with Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, it's Peppermint Patty centric.
Can I give y'all my really bad headcanon about Peanuts?
Sure.
Okay. Have y'all ever seen the movie American Psycho with Christian Bale?
No, I don't like him enough for that.
Okay. Well, it's a movie about Christian Bale where he is like the stereotypical embodiment of the 1980s big businessman.
Who also is a psycho killer.
Who is a psychotic killer. In my brain, because of the way Lucy always treated him, that's Linus when he grows up.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah.
Especially since when I was coming up in the 70s, 60s and 70s, a lot of people had, whether they were hippies or not, they all had one of the same things, either on a t-shirt or a poster. It's Linus standing there with the sign that says, I love, I love humanity. It's people I can't stand. And I don't care if you were a hippie or a Republican or whatever, everybody had some version of that.
Well, I always felt that if Linus ever lost Sally or Sally's affection, he would go that way. As much as he hated how Sally showed her affection, if Sally ever turned, Linus is just there, automatically there.
Well, and he did kind of lose it if you think about Great Pumpkin, the denouement
Sally
of
lost it
Great,
even worse.
that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
She just is like, I've mistreated, because he's expecting the pumpkin and it's Snoopy. Please, it's not a spoiler. If y'all have not seen this, I can't. I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Snoopy, he thinks it's Snoopy, and he thinks it's a great pumpkin. He passes out. It's Snoopy.
Mm-hmm.
When he comes to, Sally just, she just gives him what for, because it's cold. She's stuck in a pumpkin patch. She's missed out on the party and her first trick or treat.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike Lucy, who, as much as she claimed, it's interesting how Lucy, it's like, I love you, but I don't really love you. Because on the one hand, yes, she's asking people to give her extra candy for her brother, but she makes it, my stupid brother who's waiting on the great. It's like, could you just say, my brother couldn't make it? Can I get an extra piece of candy? No, she has, and it's like, it kind of makes it like she's the long suffering one, even though Linus didn't ask her to trick or treat on his behalf. This is something she takes on herself, and it makes it all about her, which is, her other superpower. But yeah, I just thought Sally just gave it to her. He was still her sweet Papu.
Right, and
He never
it's just
stopped
the
being
way
her.
that she
He
did it.
ticked her off, but he was still her sweet Babu.
Because Linus had no clue what had happened. He just wakes up, and she was just like, "What do you mean it's over? What do you mean he didn't show?" And then it was just like, after that, it was just like, but Axe Bane, I should say, did say, "I love Peanuts though, especially the way Peanuts dealt with stuff like depression and stuff, which almost no newspaper comic ever addressed at all," which is true.
Beetle Bailey did it once, and it was the black guy goes to the chaplain,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking about, and he's like, well, what's wrong? And he's explaining to the chaplain how the word black is used in so many negative connotations. And the preacher then gives him this speech. He feels better, and he ends it with, "Oh, it's okay. You were just in a black mood."
Yeah.
I kind of quit reading Beetle Bailey as much after that because it's like, yeah, I get you were making this a joke, but it wasn't.
It was an insensitive type joke.
Yeah, and it's like
it would have been better if he's like, "Oh, it's okay. You feeling a little bit blue."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that would have been a little bit more palatable.
Yeah, and it would have, because he's supposed to be, because up till then, I loved the preacher, their chaplain, because he was this sort of, when things were kind of crazy, he was the one that kind of gave a bit of sanity to the crew. Especially Beetle dealing with Sarge beating him up all the time, or their crazy general. He was sort of that bit of sanity, and he wasn't the religious, more of the sort of sanity within the group.
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me just sort of lowered him, in my opinion. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to read this for a while, because that kind of hurt me as someone who had been reading that and loved it, So that kind of hurt me. Can I go on to my next book now?
Yeah,
well, Joe hasn't done his.
We could go around again. That's not.
What's your next book then? What's your book? Because Cliff and I have gone. It's your turn.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yes.
Well, the first book that always comes to mind is it's an Amazing Spider-Man book, by the way. And I'm not a big fan of Amazing Spider-Man, but the one issue where is the boy who collects Spider-Man. For those who have ever read that issue, it is a standout issue where the story is really not about the villain of the week. It's about his visit to a terminally ill kid
Mhm.
who have been collecting everything that was Spider-Man related for years, and he decides to go visit him in the hospital. So, after he dealt with, I believe it was Thunderbolt, he goes and finally visited him for the last time because, they
He's
said
done.
that, yeah, because it was like, hours before he, just a few hours before he was going to pass anyway, because there was nothing that the doctors can do.
Mhm.
And because Peter was a mass vigilante, he was up here, it's like, out of everything, and, sorry for the spoilers if you haven't read it yet. Pretty much the kid was like, out of everything, out of everything that you do, it's like you have friends in your corner, this, that, and the other, but how many people actually know your identity? And he
Mhm.
would say very few. And only the ones that I could truly trust could understand that. And that's, and as I said, I could count, that number on one hand. So the kid was like, well, whatever happens, stay Spider-Man, stay safe here. And I would keep keep your secret safe here, even though I don't know.
Mhm.
Peter looks out the window just before he leaves and everything. He looks out the window, he comes back in, he closed the blinds and unmasks himself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So the kid knows who he is before he passed away.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So, those are the type of stories that pulls on heartstrings to
Mhm.
be like, that's what makes Peter a hero.
Yeah.
It's not
Mhm.
about, how mighty of a villain he defeats or anything. It's just the humanity portion of him. Just the simple fact that this kid looks up to him in so many different ways. And it kind of goes back to the whole thing about the reason why I kind of laugh at Flash Thompson. What if Flash Thompson back in the high school days realized that Peter was actually Spider-Man?
Mhm.
It was like, Peter, that well, he does, Peter is a goofball, this, that, or the other. It's like, why can't he be more like Spider-Man? It's like that would have ruined Pete, that would have ruined Flash Thompson's mind for it forever if he ever found that. Well, he found out later in life. He found out later in life that Peter was
Mhm.
Spider-Man, but in high school,
That would have just
that would
that
have
had blown
messed him
what
up.
bit of brain he had.
Yep. Yeah,
You
that is
know,
a very touching story. Yep. That's one of my favorite go-tos each and every time.
that goes along. I'm not a big Peter Parker fan. I
Mhm.
just don't like Peter Parker.
Okay.
But going along the same lines of quiet moments that show what kind of character he is, I always think about the issue where he fought the Juggernaut,
Oh.
Kane Marco, and he can't do anything to him at all. And then, like in one of the there's just one panel where all he can do is hold on to the back of his head and have him hitting him. And he's like, I don't know I can't do anything. This is all I can do until I figure something else. I'm going to hold on to him here where no one else will get hurt. And it really speaks to the hero of Spider-Man like that. But yeah, I don't like Peter Parker, but yeah,
My favorite Juggernaut
that and
showdown
the
is him and the Dazzler. Um, he was and it's funny because Juggernaut turns out was a fan of Dazzler's, and I forgot what he
as we
was.
all are.
I forgot what happened, but he was doing as the Juggernaut is wont to do something he wasn't supposed to do. Excuse me, hold on. I'm drinking soda. It wants to bubble. Um, he was doing something that he wasn't supposed to do, and the only hero nearby because she was doing her concert was Dazzler. And Dazzler, while she was always something of a reluctant hero, in my opinion, when the
Okay, Carl.
Night Carl, Night Donna, when the rubber meets the road, she doesn't back down from a fight. If she realizes if I don't step up, it's gonna be ugly for everybody. So I'll let
Mhm.
the ugly hit me. And
Mhm.
hopefully somebody X-Men or somebody will show up, before I get killed. Um, but she ended up having to go one-on-one with the Juggernaut, and it got to the point where, because he's the Juggernaut, and he just she is hitting him with everything she's got, to the point where she's got nothing left, and she passes out from sheer exhaustion. And it was the only time I'd ever seen Juggernaut get in his feels, because she collapses and she's barely breathing, and it ends with, "Oh my God, I killed the Dazzler." You know, and it was like,
it wasn't exactly that, but it was close enough.
Yeah, it was. It was like, of all the pain and suffering he's caused, he realized this woman was ready to die. Dang near did it to do what she could to stop him from hurting anyone else, and it got to him.
It got to him so much. It's like, I can't be the one that caused you to die. I love your music.
He had tears. It was like,
he had tears, because it's like, I love your music. I don't want you to die. And once he realized how much he gave,
until that moment when she was like, she was like, damn, you know, and she was ready to go, and then boom, she just went down. And I just, you know, I actually kind of shed a tear. I still get a little teary, because it's like, you know, it's the Juggernaut. He can whack Charles and not care. You know, he's whack Kitty Pryde and not care. But this hit him in the feels. And it was like, okay, so you got a heart.
That was the first time, but I won't ruin that story later on in the X-Men.
But
there's another story where it was more heartstrings being pulled.
But what I'm saying is, that's the first time we see Juggernaut actually looking at the consequences of his actions and realizing what I did was bad. No matter how I think about my actions, I almost killed someone I care about. And I thought that was really interesting in a character where we'd only ever seen cruelty and disregard for the pain of others. Suddenly he was hitting the fields, and I thought, I used to have that issue, and it got lost in a movie, you know. And I will eventually, I am thinking about going to James and seeing if I can't remember what book is. I know it's him and the Dazzler. I think it's a Dazzler, but I don't know the issue.
It is a Dazzler issue. I think it was an early Dazzler issue here.
Yeah, it was one of her early.
You need to read a later story in X-Men dealing with the Juggernaut. And it hits you in the feels again, because it is exactly that. It's like him protecting this one kid, and nobody could understand why he was protecting this one kid so much, where the parent of that child, especially the father of that child, wanted the authorities to arrest the Juggernaut for all these different crimes and stuff, because he kept the child away from him. Yeah. Only to find out that he found out what the child was going through, that the father was abusing him, and it reminded him of his childhood. It's like, nope, no other kid is going to go through this abuse. I was tough enough to take this. He's not. And if you try to keep abusing him, you got to go through me.
In fact, they kind of based that second Deadpool movie. They based that second Deadpool movie on that. The kid who's put in he's put in a jail, the prison with Juggernaut.
Yep.
It was kind of based on that. I hadn't read the story, but I had learned the backstory of the movie, and that it had been based on
that issue that one of X-Men where they was dealing with that, where Charles Xavier eventually got Jennifer Walters to try to defend the Juggernaut against the father in court. And again,
Mhm.
it led to the whole thing about them sleeping together.
Okay.
But again, that's a whole nother stuff that was debunked because
Mhm.
that was alternate version Jennifer Walters from that was a deviant that, according to the slot run, was a deviant who crossed over universes, and one thing led to another, and
Oh,
they tried to put her back. So
multiverse shenanigans.
yeah.
Can I just say, I don't know a lot about Dan Slott, but from what few books of his I read, I am terrified of him writing Superman coming up this summer.
Okay.
I'm,
You might be oddly, if I could say, amused and entertained, and you might
Mhm.
end up liking it. There's certain things that people hate about his writing, and there's certain
Mhm.
good things about his writing that I like. Like
Mhm.
I understand his run with She-Hulk, and I got where he was going with it because technically he picked up where John Byrne left off,
Mhm.
and that made sense.
Okay.
What he did with Spider-Man, there was a love-hate relationship with Spider-Man. But his best Spider-Man run was the one series that people hated in the very beginning, which was Superior Spider-Man,
Mhm.
where Doc Ock was Spider-Man, at least inhabited Spider-Man's body.
Right. Right.
That
I hate
was
it when they do
so
that.
underrated that people slept on it because why would Doc Ock be Peter Parker? It's like, no, it's just go with the flow of it. It works itself out because it's more like Doc Ock can't be himself. He had to be Peter Parker. He's trapped in his body.
Mhm.
Okay, I get that.
I just,
Which,
I just don't know because I know there. The only things I know of Dan Slott that I liked were his Goofy She-Hulk, and I don't think Goofy fits with Superman, so I'm kind of nervous.
okay. What's
So.
your next book?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're on your next book here.
okay. I'm going to skip over the ones that probably everybody's heard of before, that everyone knows, like Kingdom Come or Crisis or JLA Avengers. That if you've never read, you need to. But
Okay.
Gail Simone's Secret Six.
Never read it.
Oh, okay. I'm going to let you explain. I'm going to let you explain why Secret Six.
I love Secret Six because
Give him the full screen.
it's so. Don't give me the full screen. We'll scare off viewers. Um,
Oh, you're
I
not going to hold
love.
it. Okay, I'm about to say if you hold the book, yeah, you got to show. If you show the book, you got to get the full screen. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Show the book. There you go. No, yeah,
Yeah.
right, right there.
I'm a big fan of Gail Simone. I'm gonna say that there's some stuff that she does. I'm like, but I love Gail Simone, and I love Secret Six because it's an example of that old saying about being handed chicken shit and making chicken salad. Because Secret Six came from my favorite time to be a DC Comics fan, and that was the run up to Infinite Crisis all the way through Brightest Day. Because in my mind, there was just the right amount of continuity for wherever you were in the DC universe. Silver Age, Golden Age, Post Crisis, you could enjoy it. Building up to Infinite Crisis, they did a miniseries called Villains United.
Mm-hmm. I
Villains
got that.
United was Villains United was going to be the villain, quote unquote, the villain's perspective of everything going on, going up to Infinite Crisis. They said, "Well, Gail, let's let you write it." So, like, all right, awesome. I want to write Lex Luthor. No, you can't have him. He's set for something else. All right, let me have Black Adam. No, I can't have him. He's set for something else. So all they did was give her. They said you can have these D through Z list characters like Catman.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time she was done with Villains United, before Secret Six, she had done such a wonderful job of resurrecting these non-important characters that Wizard magazine was even doing polls about, because there's a big thing when Infinite Crisis started that Batman was going to die, or Bruce Wayne was going to die,
Whoopsie.
and he
Well,
was going to replace him.
once
Mm-hmm.
again.
Catman, Thomas Blake Catman won the polling, and at least one or two issues of Wizard of who would replace Bruce Wayne because of how she wrote him in Villains United.
Cool.
And before that, he was a throwaway joke character, just like Ragdoll was, just like Cheshire was. Outside of showing up in Suicide Squad, Deadshot was. And she took these characters and made them into a, a believable, dysfunctional family of mentally unstable people. And then she rolled it over into the Secret Six series and added Bane to it. Who's at this time Bane was looking for redemption from what he Bane always believed he was a victim. If you ever really read the Batman books, he's nothing he does is his fault. He was born into captivity. Blah 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 blah. He was trying to redeem himself, so he made Scandal Savage, the one of the illegitimate children of Vandal Savage, like his adopted daughter, and their dynamic was so goofy, and the weird bromance between Catman and Deadshot. Um, Ragdoll trying to deal with the fact that his family was so messed up. Um, and just stuff you couldn't get away with in the main books. Like the first story arc was they were all chasing down a get out of hell free card.
Okay.
Because they all knew they never once ever tried to redeem themselves. They were always bastards. They were always villains. And they knew they were. So it was, yeah, we're going to need this card. And just the fact that she took these characters that, look, at the time, at one point, Thomas Blake Catman was so thought less of and a joke character. Masur Mala from the Doom Patrol villain ate him. He was just a throw. And by the time she was done with her run, he was like in the upper echelon of badass DC characters.
Ooh.
And it was amazing to me because it aside from I just like Gail Simone's writing and her humor, even though she gets too heavy-handed sometimes, it really showed me the old saying about there is no bad characters, there's only bad creative. Because I mean, if you've ever read any of they're so chock full of just goofy stuff. Like Bane goes out on a date with a girl and he's never been on a date before. And so he comes up to her and he has chocolates and flowers. He goes, "Here, these are tokens for our mating negotiations. Are you ready?" And just wacky stuff. And by the end of it, you actually care for all these characters, and they got New 52'd, and it was really sad. But leading up to that, it was just like they were I can't say hard luck heroes because they weren't heroes. They were your scraping bottom of the barrel, getting by villains who it didn't matter what it was. Damn it, we're gonna make it out alive. And I fell in love with it. And Ragdoll is probably one of the greatest uncomfortably funny characters ever. And then they added characters like Black Alice, who is, she can steal any magical being's powers for a little while. So she got into a fight with Scandal Savage in one issue, and she stole Jason Blood Etrigan's powers, but instead of the demon Etrigan, she was the demon Estrogen. And it was just a great, great story. And I could, no matter what kind of mood I'm in, I could go back to it and read Secret Six and it'll put a smile on my face.
Oh, okay.
It's not high art, it's not high drama, it's not high storytelling. It's just a good sit down, I need to feel better about my day read. And it made me fall in love with Catman to the point that I may sell one of my kids to get his first appearance way back in Detective whatever. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, and Gail Simone's not for everyone, but if you like Gail Simone and you like wacky villains, you'll love this.
Okay.
And I do, and I heart it with all my life. And the animated movie they made about it was terrible and made me want to start punching DC executives, but that's okay.
Well,
Okay.
I'm kind of sort of a fan of Gail Simone, but I was not a fan of Secret Six.
I've never read Secret Six, so I'm not going to make a judgment on it one way or the other.
You hit it on the nail because she has a tendency to be heavy-handed in her writing, and because the way that she did Secret Six, there's certain aspects of her writing that I applaud her for making these characters more canon for for the overall DC universe, because that's what she did. She brought them out of obscurity and made them canon to that universe. Ragdoll cannot go back to being a Ragdoll. Oh, she has set that bar for Ragdoll, and Ragdoll is now it's been taken seriously ever since here. Catman, not so much, and some of the others not so much here. But like I said, it was her doing that brought them out, because if it wasn't for the fact of Catman and Ragdoll, that series wouldn't have been as big as what it was here. She did yeoman's work there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I still wouldn't put it up there with some of her other writings here, because one of the reasons why I started following Red Sonja over at Dynamite in the very beginning is because Gail Simone wrote it. When Dynamite took over Red Sonja, I was like, okay, her and Red Sonja, that could work. That could work, and it did for a little bit until Dynamite was like, nope, it was what it was.
Got it. Speaking of women doing comic work, can we show the pic that I'm working on?
Oh, you want to see that now? You want to see it?
Yes.
She wants to see it.
I
She
wanted to show it to
wants to
Donna.
see her picture. This is something that
I
Elaine
use
did.
drawing. I use drawing stuff.
Yeah, she used. I was about to sing the picture pages theme. Time to get the crayons and your pencils. Picture pages. Time to get your picture pages down. Now here comes Bill Cosby to do a picture page with you. So now here comes Elaine to do a picture page with you, and this is her picture page.
Jeez. Okay. I'm like, wow. Okay. You just ruined me. You just
How did I ruin you?
You just ruined me. I'm just saying, you just ruined me. Anyway, for those who may not know, I write. I also illustrate. I am working on the tradition. I wasn't happy with the digital version of this cover that I did. This is for my first illustrated novel entitled Heir Apparent. And I wasn't happy with the digital version, so I decided to do a traditional version of it. And this is a multimedia piece. The underpainting is acrylic inks, as well as some watercolors. I'm now finishing out in colored pencil, Prismacolors, by the way, for anybody who's curious. This is a picture of my lead character for this book. Her name is Chevron Hajad. She, unbeknownst to her, is the heir apparent to a galactic empire. Think of Wakanda in space, except they don't call anybody colonizers. They're nicer than that. But this is more other-centric comic. Well, not a comic, but it's an illustrated novel. It focuses on a universe where it's not Eurocentric. You have Black people, you have people who look Native American, you have Asians, you do have white people, but they are not the center of the universe. They're part of this group, but they aren't the lead characters. And I am really happy with how it's turning out. And you can take it off now. I just want to give people a peek, because I realize since no one's got my book yet, they're like, well, what the hell does she do? Why is she up here? So now you know, I am working on stuff. It's not like I'm not working. I'm still waiting on James to give me my signing day. Oh, thank you. Prismacolors are really great. But my second pick, I can go lowbrow or I can go more mid to highbrow. Which would you prefer? I can do my lowbrow book now or my midbrow.
Surprises.
Dang. Okay. Okay. Well, fine. You want a surprise? Mad Magazine.
Yep, her go-to. Yep.
This it's a reissue of a special edition, and this came out. This is one of their. This is their fifth special, and this is the best of the worst of Mad Magazine. I have loved Mad Magazine. For those who don't know, this was one of my early Mad Magazine pocketbooks, The Mad Adventures of Captain Klutz. I love this book. And if you don't like it, nuts to you, baby. I don't care. But this is one of the things I have always loved about Mad is that you have an interesting mix of art styles in the same book. The guy who, you would have people do this picture, this very lovely, realistic picture of Ringo Starr with blonde hair. And then you would have somebody do, hold on, let me see if I can find, they did a send up a Star Trek. Which I remember when I first came out, it was fun and lovely. But you would get them doing. Oh, here it is. You would get the phone bones, which were if you have seen any of Dan Martin's work, the phone bones had really interesting physiques and those huge floppy feet. And I just love me some phone bones. And of course, spy versus spy. You can't be spy versus spy. I'm sorry. You just can't. In fact, the next thing I'm getting is the spy versus spy omnibus. Joe, I might edit. Yep. At a discount for this. And I love the back page of this because anybody who lived through the 90s, the old Absolute Vodka ads, will get this joke. If you didn't live through the 90s, oh well, I can't help you. But it's whenever I like I said, when I have those that angst that Helsing Ultimate Abridged or something else won't fix, I can make myself a ginger tea or whatever, go in my room, put on some music, and read me some Mad, and or my next book. I also have a collection of mutts that my oldest gave me, but very few people know much about mutts, so I can't speak to that. Did you mute yourself, Cliff?
No. I went to go look for the
Can't
next book, and I couldn't pull the next book out here that would be my go-to.
Cliff, you muted yourself. Ah, there you go.
I did it on purpose because I was having a coughing fit and I didn't want it to be on air.
Okay. But
I was making sure it was done before I unmuted.
I just, I grew up reading Mad, and my mother hated Mad Magazine. And I thought I was, so very, and I didn't know that many kids who read it. The most people I knew who read Mad Magazine were adults, primarily Jewish. Don't know why. Chicago
Yep.
public schools. You get a lot of Jewish intellectuals teaching when I was a
90s
kid.
Cool.
But I just, this was something I grew up with as a child in the 60s, and it was special to me. It is still special to me. It's one of those things, if I see it and I've got money for it, just like I got this puppy, and I'm now, a friend of mine just had a little boy, so I'm going to give it to her so she can read it and giggle. And when her little boy gets old enough to read, I'm going to insist that she make him read and giggle too, because I can spread the giggle around. But yeah, so when my heart needs healing, and I don't want to go to Middle Earth, what can I say? Matt, it's more fun than a basket full of vibrators and less messy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't say nothing about that here, but
we got this thingy up here for a reason.
I've been to some parties would probably argue with you on that one, but okay.
I haven't dated since before what's his name came down that escalator. So.
Oh wow. Anyway, I could pull the second book, but I don't feel like taking down all these other books to get to it. But my second book is a Jim Starlin book here. And it's a graphic novel, and it was a graphic novel that they did with Hulk and Thor. And the reason why
does Hulk punch you?
Punch who? The Thing?
Thor.
No, it's Hulk and Thing.
Oh, you said Thor. Hulk and Thor.
Oh, my fault. It's Hulk and Thing.
Oh, dang, that's not as much fun.
Oh yeah, it was a fun romp, but I love this graphic novel because of the ending.
Ooh.
Because of the ending. The ending of it is so hilarious that it's ridiculously funny, and it's worth the payoff. So pretty much it's like Hulk and Thing gets pulled into this alternate universe here, where this one magician is told, pretty much gets them to do this one deed, and if they complete this one deed, he will give them anything that they desire.
Okay.
So they go on this nice little fun romp of an adventure and everything. They almost died a couple of times, and this, that, and the other. Got through all of these different scrapes, arguing half the time about who was better than whom and everything. And they finally complete the task. They finally get back to the wizard who brought them there. And
this wasn't Doctor Strange?
No, it's not Doctor Strange.
Oh wow, okay.
So they finally get back to the person that brought them there and everything. And it's like, mighty warriors, you have did your task, and it's now time for me to pay what is owed here. What is your heart's desire? Now, mind you, Thing has been fighting to become human again. Hulk Banner kind of wants to be human again. So they're like, okay, this is our chance. We need to think about this, precisely and everything. But before Thing could say anything, Hulk blurts out, and sorry for the spoilers, Hulk blurts out, Hulk tired, Hulk hungry, Hulk want to go home. Granted, boom. And they come back to their Earth as they are. And then out of nowhere, Hulk is like sitting there with all of these different cheeseburgers sitting in front of him. And he's just like going to town and this, that, and the other. He started eating and chowing down and everything. And Thing was like, really? It was like, Hulk. I was like, Hulk rude. You want a couple of burgers? Like, no. No, and he goes and he grabs this big ass boulder, picks it up over his head, about to get ready to hit Hulk. I was like, "Oh, Hulk, buddy, I got a present for you." That was the biggest payoff in a graphic novel that I have ever read.
Because if you think about it, from the Hulk's point of view, the Hulk has never been tired of being the Hulk. The Hulk likes being Hulk. So he's not going to wish to be Banner. Banner is puny. Banner is weak. Banner can't kick the butt of a half-dead rabbit in a snowstorm.
You have to be mindful that he does go back to Banner during this adventure. But because Hulk was in Hulk form,
he's the Hulk.
Hulk hungry, Hulk tired, Hulk want to go home. Cricket.
I'm sorry. sorry. I shouldn't be
But
giggling.
but that's the payoff. That's the reason why the payoff was so good. And it's just Starling just did it. It just came so far out of left field that it just hit just right.
You owe me a copy of that issue.
Hmm?
You owe me a copy of that issue.
Do I give up my extra?
Yes.
See, I won't get it back.
No, you're not gonna get it back. You know that. You're getting it back.
Now, was this Starlin before or after the death of Captain Marvel?
I think it was a little bit before.
Okay. Okay, because I haven't
Now
heard
you're
of
going to
this
make me
one. I'm
pull
just
this
trying to see
book.
the time
Now you're going to
frame.
make me pull this book off the shelf. Give me 1 second here. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Y'all got me up here.
You wanted to just get rid of him. Oh, you are so evil.
I want to see the book. I mean, we all brought our homework with us. He needs to get his.
Yeah, but you know, he's teacher's pet. He handles the projector. So
Sure.
we
Sure.
can't. So
Well, before he
I
comes
now
back,
sign into this, so I kind of have projector controls too.
now before he comes back, Lane, you got me in trouble the last time I was on here.
What did I do?
You know, you wanted to see my oldest daughter. Now my other two were like, when do I get to come on there? I'm
Ooh,
like, you don't. No, I
okay.
like y'all. I'm not going to do that to you.
Why?
No,
I keep trying
no.
to get my boys on camera, and they keep looking at me like, "How insane are you
And-
today? Do we need to
and-
put you in the home?" Hold on, Charles, meet the Pookie.
See, this is how you know
Boy.
this is the mark of excellence.
Pookie, Pookie.
Oh,
Right
Bernie
there.
Wrightson?
Yep.
Wow.
Starlin and
Hold
Wrightson. You
Hold
can't
on.
you can't get too much better than that here.
Knock on that door for me. No, that's good. Ooh.
You can't get too much better than that here.
I'm getting that extra. And I'm not doing any extra books for it. You're gonna give that to me out of the kindness of your heart. A congratulation gift on getting book 1 of my 7-book miniseries done.
Marvel graphic novel number 29.
Please, Courtney, go knock on the Pookie door. Will you go get the shred for me?
It came out in 87.
Yep.
87?
Mhm.
That's the year Charles was born. That's why I didn't get it. Because I was too busy birthing a baby.
There's the page right there. I'm trying to get it on screen here where you can see it.
Hold on just a second.
There's the magical being that brought them into their universe. It's like, here's your 2 wishes of this, that, or the other. Then he's agonized. It's like, we gotta get this right, this, that, or the other, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah. Well, what will it be? And there he says it.
That's awesome.
We want food. We want to go home. What?
Don't make me come in there and pick you up and bring you in here. No, I can't lift you.
That's awesome. I may have to track that down. I have a weird desire to collect all of those old original Marvel graphic novels that were just their own throwaway stories, and I didn't know this one existed. So
yes,
I
knew about it. I searched out for it, and lo and behold, I was able to get a couple of copies. I might be able to get another one.
I don't care. You gonna give me that extra copy. You are going to give me that extra copy whether you want to or not, because I swear.
No, I'm now going to give Elaine another persona here. And you are familiar with the Boondocks, right, Elaine?
Yes.
You're not the Santa stalker. You're the comic stalker. You gotta pay what you want. Pay for first aid comic. You are a blue. You will find a copy of Mad Magazine, such and such.
And
because
he
you're going to pay
does.
what you owe. I'm going to make sure you're going to pay
He
what
is
you
my
owe.
dealer. James is my dealer. I don't need to inject anything. I just need to go to James and go, you want banana bread, baby? You like my banana bread.
No, that's the reason why you turn into the comic stalker, because it's like you feed him all that
I
banana
get
bread
him
and
good
you're like,
quality
where's
banana
my
bread.
book? You supposed to have my book. How come my book's not here?
I pay him for the books. It's not like I go,
but
here,
still.
banana bread, you're going to give me that book for free. It's like, no.
No,
This is banana bread, so
I'm
you
just
think
saying, it's
well
just
of me. So when I
availability.
ask for that book, you're going to find me that book. You're going to find me that book at a good price.
But for right now, this book is like heart and soul.
Courtney,
No, my sister, you got to get your own.
This is to make up for what I made you do. Come on.
Now, don't spin her like a basketball, because you know you can pick her up and spin her like a basketball like this. Because you almost did that at C2E2. You almost did that at C2E2. Picked her up and spin her like a basketball.
I was gonna pick her up. Hopefully that makes up for your me having you bringing out your oldest. I couldn't get either of my sons to get on camera.
It's okay.
That's my goddaughter. That's Sweet Pea.
She's lovely.
She can sing. Sing, Sweet Pea. No.
Womp womp.
You just made me a laughing stock.
That's your own fault. You should have threatened to pick me up.
I'll remember this. I will remember this. I know where you sleep. Just remember that. Anyway.
Why am I remembering an anime about this one girl that went over to it was Azumagadayo, that's what it was. Where Chio-chan dressed up as the cute little penguin, and I forgot old girl just walked up to her and just tapped her just a little bit and she fell over.
Oh man.
That's what I just saw between you two. Just as like, I remember that. I'm gonna remember that. I know where you sleep. I can just see it right now. She's just being nice and kind of working. You just sneak up and be like, push.
Nah. No, she knows mommy's secret zombie yell. You know the zombie yell. I have developed my own.
So that's not the point over here. So,
okay.
So now it's back to Cliff here. I think we're going to do our third. I think we're going to do a third one here. So let's go ahead and do our third one.
Come on, Cliff.
All right. Well, this one is my ultimate go-to. No matter what, it gets reread pretty much every year. Starman.
Ooh.
James Robinson Starman. I cannot say enough good about this series. I will openly admit, when it first came out, I didn't want anything to do with it. I hated the idea of it, and I was mad because it was during Zero Hour, which was DC's way of saying, we messed up a lot of stuff with Crisis, and we're going to put a Band-Aid on it. And they started introducing all these new extreme characters. Like Dr. Fate wasn't Dr. Fate anymore. He was Fate. And he melted down his helmet into a knife. And he had a eye patch and a roar. And then they introduced...
So Dr. Fate became Nick Fury with a stabby thing.
Basically. And like his cloak became like a thing on his arm and a bunch of nonsense. And he properly got killed off as soon as they realized this was a bad idea. But they introduced a new Starman. And I've always been a JSA fan. I always like their costumes and the idea of the elder statesman. And when they introduced the new Starman, he wasn't wearing a costume. He was in his leather jacket and his goggles, and he had his staff, and he was just costumed as lame. I was like, oh yeah? I'm like, well, costumes are the reasons I read superhero comic books, so screw you, guy. And I didn't read it. And I refused to, because like I'm not getting into all this extreme nonsense with these comics. And then I kept hearing about how good it was. And I read James Robinson's Elseworlds graphic novel, The Golden Age,
Okay.
and I fell in love with James Robinson's writing. It was just, if you've never read The Golden Age, go out and read it. It's amazing. It's got a twist in it that if you're an old time comics fan, you could probably see coming, but if not, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Um, it's great, and I was like, all right, they're releasing the whole series of Starman as an omnibus. Let me give it a try, and I was hooked after the first couple of pages of the first issue.
Ooh.
Everything that I love about comic books, everything that I love about DC comic books, is all in this series.
Cool.
It touches on family, it touches on legacy, it touches on responsibility. It makes, and what I always liked about DC, they always had their wacky made up cities. Like in this case, Starman is protector of Opal City, which is kind of like a combination of Seattle and San Francisco. Opal City is his own character in the book. I mean, some people will argue that Opal City is the main character of Starman. I don't agree with that. I think the main character Starman is the Shade, but I'll get to that in a minute. He took and it's it he took a character like the Shade. The Shade was a throwaway Golden Age Flash villain who his gimmick as a villain of the month was he had a stick that could make shadow monsters. Ooh, James Robinson took him and reinvented him as this character that his power wasn't that he could control darkness, and he wasn't this wacky villain. He was alive at the same time as Oscar Wilde and Charles Dickinson, and his power made him immortal. And the only reason he became a supervillain was because he was bored, and the idea of fighting with these guys in these crazy costumes sounded like fun. But he never would do stuff inside of Opal City where he lived because that was his city and he wanted to keep it pristine. Um, and just introduced character after character, and they all had their own legacy. Instead of a Commissioner Gordon, he had the O'Hare family, which is a family of cops who's always been in Opal and was always by Starman's side. And their legacy continues on just like Starman because instead of ignoring any wackiness that's ever happened in the comics, like for a while, there was one issue in 1951 where Batman was Starman for a little while because some villain had hypnotized him and made him afraid of bats, and he couldn't be Batman anymore. So instead
Sorry.
of ignoring that, James Robinson took it, and the Starman of 1951, it became a mystery of who he was, where he fit in the Starman legacy. Um, the 1970s first issue, what do they call them? When they had a whole bunch of first issue specials, they introduced a new Starman. He was a disco alien with blue skin named Mikhail Thomas.
Oh, wow.
He got roped into it. Starboy from the Legion of Superheroes, he's part of the legacy, and it's just nothing in it seems out of place, and nothing is thrown in there. Everything is there for a purpose. You get to watch Jack Knight grow up and realize he resented superheroes and the Starman legacy because he felt like it kind of took his dad away from him. But
Okay.
deep down inside, he loved the legacy of his father, and he embraced it, and he ran with it, and he made it his own. And his journey as a hero was so beautiful. And they introduced, if you remember from the late '80s, early '90s, they had a different Starman, Will Payton Starman. It was a series for a little while. It got wrapped up into it, and he was part of the legacy. And it turned out his sister became Jack Knight's love interest because she was determined to find what happened to her brother because he died during one of the crossover events. And the artwork, it took me a little bit to get used to it because it wasn't your standard crisp George Perez, Jim Lee, Barry Windsor, Barry Windsor Smith art. It's more pulpy looking and dirty. And it was done that way on purpose because it had that feel to it. And Tony Harris did a great job with it. But because Tony Harris never had worked on before this a monthly book, to give him time to make sure he was never behind on the books, they would interplay. They called them Times Past stories, and it was stories of the Golden Age Starman or the Shade, and they had a different art team do it. And Alex Ross did a lot of the covers for the book, and it was so good and written so well that when he introduced a character that was supposed to be around since the Golden Age, that he just made up out of nowhere, it fit, and you believed it was this character had been around since the 1940s. Like the streetwise thug with superpowers, Bobo Benetti, who was a bank robber. He wasn't a character in the 1940s, but he was written so well, and everything fit so much. You're like, yeah, this dude was around in the All-Star comics back there with Starman. You wouldn't know. And it was so great. And I think because he had an ending in his head of where it was going, and he was left alone, and he wrote the story from beginning to end, and it ended, and that was it. It was beautiful.
Cool.
It's just, I say it all the time, and I will stick to it, and I will fight James Gunn about it now. If you want to make a mega hit for DC's cinematic universe or their TV universe, there's 6 Starman omnibus. They're not that big. Film these panel for panel, and it will be a mega hit for you. You can take a bath like Scrooge McDuck in the money. It is so good. And I cannot
Unless
say enough
people
good.
confuse him with Jeff Bridges.
We're not talking about that.
Okay.
But no, I love it. I heard that they're getting together to do a Black Label series of Starman again. It's going to be James Robinson and Tony Harris, and I have threatened my local comic book dealer's life if he doesn't get it for me when it comes out. I just read Starman. I have all the omnibuses. I have gone back and I've collected every single issue and all the annuals. I may collect them again just so I have 2 copies of them. I love it. I love it. And if you've never read it, shame on you. You're not a real comic book fan.
Ooh.
Well, maybe not that much, but yes, shame on you. Go read it. It's wonderful.
I remember when what's her name was never Captain Marvel. Danvers was never Captain Marvel, and I know how
Who's
she
Miss
lost her
Marvel?
Miss Marvel powers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So before you start jumping on me, don't make me. I will walk to your house.
Billy Batson is Captain Marvel, and anything else is nonsense.
Okay, that's it. We got a battle.
Oh no,
Monica Rambeau.
it's
Say
Captain
no.
Marvel. It's
Hello.
the Captain Marvel of the day.
I'll give you that one. I like Monica.
Danvers became binary.
Yes.
She lost her Ms. Marvel powers because she and Rogue were fighting each other, and they tired each other out. And what happened was they had skin to skin contact. And because of her Kree whatever, Rogue got all her powers and stuff, and then it started messing up Rogue's power, which is how she ended up having to go to the X-Men's Professor Xavier because she was losing her stuff. Don't make me go old lady of comic books on you, because we have to fight.
Oh, and talking about Captain Marvel, there is a really good crossover between the Power of Shazam and Starman that's in here.
Ooh.
That's amazing. Jerry Ordway's Power of Shazam was great in the early 90s.
All right.
But yeah, go read Starman.
Your turn, Elaine.
Okay. I don't have any Doonesbury, which is really sad because I love me some Doonesbury growing up as a kid. Doonesbury was, Doonesbury was one of those comic strips that made me feel like I was very intellectual at the age of 11. But since I don't have that, and I don't have the one with the penguin and Bill the cat lives, thank you. I do have the indispensable Calvin and Hobbes.
You know,
You know, that's just insane. I'm sorry. I need. Who doesn't need a stuffed tiger in their life? But that's okay. That's okay. Don't get jealous. I got Crazy Bird. I got Crazy Bird. Crazy Bird takes care of me. He comes alive when you guys aren't around, and we have the adventures. But just like the tiger. I adore this book. When I need this, I'm going to read this. Explorers. Hold on. Make sure I got this. Okay. I'm going to read this. Explorers are we, intrepid and bold, out in the wild amongst wonders untold. Equipped with our wits, a map and a snack. We're searching for fun, and we're on the right track. My mother has eyes on the back of her head. I don't quite believe it, but that's what she said. She explained that she'd been so uniquely endowed to catch me when I did things not allowed. I think she must also have eyes on her rear. I've noticed her hindsight is unusually clear. And it's this lovely little poem, but I love those two stanzas. I love this book. It is another one of those books when the heart gets dark and, I want to go out and beat the crap out of whatever stupid neighbor is really getting on my nerves. I will grab my Calvin and Hobbes and I'll go away for a while. It soothes me. It tames my savage beast. And if y'all got something to say about it, show up at my door.
no, we're not dealing with stabby.
I got all sorts of surprises up in here. So
I like Calvin. I really like Calvin and Hobbes, but I don't know as much about it as I probably should because I discovered Calvin and Hobbes at the same time I discovered Pogo.
Oh, okay. Pogo was really good.
And
I didn't have any of those things.
I liked Pogo a lot better, so I know more about Pogo than I do Calvin and Hobbes. So.
Well, Calvin is interesting. He is the anti-Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He is the anti-Charlie Brown. And whereas Lucy makes Charlie miserable at every turn, the object of his affection that he can't deal with is Susie. He can't he has a thing for Susie. He can't accept that. He can't deal with it. Girls are the enemy. And he doesn't know why he can't stop focusing on her. He makes her miserable, which is why I was really surprised on Facebook. It makes the rounds every once in a while. Somebody has this the Calvin is dying and they find Hobbes for him. Hobbes has been in the attic, and his wife turns out to be Susie. And I could see why Calvin would marry Susie. I just can't see why Susie would settle for Calvin. I'm sorry. I just think of all the things he's ever done to her. She's a perfect foil for him, but I just don't. I just don't. But this little story goes that Calvin is dying. They bring him Hobbes. The family says their goodbyes and they leave. He gets to talk to Hobbes. He has this one grandson, very much like himself. He gives Hobbes to that grandchild, and explains that if he gives him a tuna fish sandwich and he catches him, he'll be his faithful tiger forever. Because that's how Calvin supposedly turned Hobbes into a real tiger. He trapped him using a tuna fish sandwich and grabbed his tail, and Hobbes didn't have a choice. But Calvin is that interesting little psycho that lives in the back of my brain. You know, and when people are playing music too loud out there, it's like, what if? You know, I just dressed like whatever. I dressed as a flesh-eating zombie, took some of my stabby things, and just ran downstairs going, and watched them all have heart attacks and die. Just see who would run away, who would turn and fight, who would just, somebody give me popcorn. This is gonna be interesting. Calvin. Calvin's he's my angst. He's my inner crazy child. So as much as times he irritates me, there's a classic Calvin and Hobbes is the poem. You remember the poem, Joe, about him and the Nightmares at Night poem? It's not in this one, I don't think. Oops. Hello. What are you doing? Don't do
me?
that. No, I was talking to my computer.
Oh.
But this one has things like the Spaceman Spiff, which is always fun. You don't know Spaceman Spiff, Cliff? That's kind of like one of his alter egos. When he's sitting in class and he's bored, he goes on a mental Spaceman Spiff adventure.
Oh. I'm gonna be 100%. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I know what Spaceman Spiff is, but I thought you said Spaceman Spit, and I was confused for a second. I was like, wait, what?
A Spaceman Spit adventure. Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the things I've loved is doing he's done these winter. Bill Watterson did these winter edition Calvin and Hobbes with the snowmen. And somebody always finds them and posts them every winter. And I love it. The one where it's the one that's he goes and it's at the back of his dad's car. One of the poor snowmen has been run over and the others are looking like, oh my God. It's just, everybody needs a giggle. And Calvin and Hobbes, they're the giggle. They're the giggle. Like Calvin deciding he can juggle water balloons. Because can't everybody juggle water balloons? Which of course it doesn't go well for him. He ends up just, covered in water. But I just, that's my insanity.
When I was little, I also was mad at Calvin and Hobbes because in our local Memphis paper, they replaced Garfield with the Calvin and Hobbes strip.
Oh.
And I was not a happy camper.
And you like Mr. Lasagna Cat.
Of course.
I love me some Lasagna Cat too. I mean, I my youngest loves Lasagna Cat, so I get it. I get you.
So between that and Pogo, discovering Pogo, I'm not the biggest Calvin and Hobbes fan, but as I gotten older, I appreciate them now. So
I'll have to collect some Calvin and Hobbes and send them to you.
Okay.
Post them in the, I'll have to see if I can collect some Calvin and Hobbes and post them in the group.
All right.
If nothing, like Clyde, Clyde does the positive vibes for every day. I don't know if you've seen his positive vibes. I love his positive vibes. Sometimes they leave me just rolling, and I'll just, I will go on each and every picture and leave a reaction, or I'll leave an overall reaction and write something, so he knows that he's touched somebody. He's eased my inner crazy for that morning. But yeah, so that's my third.
Okay. Well, I guess I would end it off like this here.
Okay.
This is for Cliff, because he made mention of it.
Death of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, but this is the second print. That's the second print.
Oh, okay.
That's the second print. Since you mentioned it, I was like, you know what? I do have a copy of it, but that's the second printing here.
From back in the day when Captain Marvel was a dude.
This is one of my most favorite tales of all time.
God loves, man kills.
Yeah.
It's so good because this was the book that I wrote my senior term paper on.
Ooh.
Mhm.
This one right here is the actual first printing signed by Claremont. This is the one. This is the one that I bought way back in the day. That my father bought for me way back in the day,
Ooh.
and I forgot that I got Claremont to sign it.
Ooh.
And I verified that this is the actual first printing. I could have sworn it's like I had a first printing of it, and there it is, right there. But that's not the book that's like going to be the go-to because I know that X-Men God Loves Man Kills is the go-to. It's probably the number one go-to in my thing, but I talked about that too much, so who cares? This one is going to be a shocker because I normally don't like horror, but I
Ooh.
don't consider this book as a horror book. It is Eerie 81.
Yes. I'm sorry.
It's Eerie 81 here. You're excited here. You got excited here
That's
because
a Frazetta cover.
yes,
Mhm.
That's a Frazetta. That's Frazetta's 50-foot woman.
well, it's not just that; it's a spoof of a lot of different things here.
Yes, but
If you read all seven tales, it's seven different stories that eventually get to this particular image.
yes, I
And
used to have that issue.
it's all different ways that this particular image could come up in a story.
My mother took it away because it had a
And
naked woman on the front.
it was done very well. It
Yes.
does very well that I actually got another copy floating around somewhere because this one actually has a chip up in it.
Ah.
So I'm probably going to try to find another better copy of it. But this is issue 81, the Holiday Giantess issue. At least that's what it says on the spine. But this old school Warren Erie 81. And the reason why this is my go to is because there were several different stories that were very interesting that led to this event.
And she was big boobies.
Well, yeah, that too, but it's like what led to that event in these seven different stories had happened in seven different ways here. One of the weirdest ones is that there was an expedition up, an expedition up in the jungle and everything. So these people went into the jungle and everything, and they were just kind of exploring around. They ended up finding a tiny version of Earth in there, and the weaponry and everything was live ammo. So the weaponry and stuff was deadly. It was deadly enough, and it's like you know people being that at their side compared to that tiny little version of Earth that they came across in the jungle made a whole big difference here. And one of the things that had happened is that once they came across that tiny Earth, they had to fight for their lives and everything. And being the way that they are, some people fled, and other people got stuck. And she was one of the ones that got stuck, and she
Stuck.
was actually fighting off people on top of that mini Empire State Building that they had there. That was one of the stories.
Mhm.
Another one of the stories was pretty much she's actually one of the brides of King Kong, or as they call him, Congo. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
because
was
they
a
couldn't use
Congo.
Kong.
There are Congo stories out there.
They couldn't use King
They
Kong.
can't. They couldn't say it was King Kong, but Congo it was pretty much King Kong in a different way,
Yeah.
in a different way in comic book form. So they had the rights to use Congo, and she's actually the bride of Congo. And in order to save Congo's life, she had to do this blood transfusion, which made her into the same size as Congo.
Okay.
And that's the reason why Congo is so tiny.
She's holding a little gorilla. It's such a great
She's actually
cover.
holding Congo, trying to defend him against the armies and stuff that was here.
I
But
love that
the
cover.
saddest story that was in here was about the tale of this one little girl who eventually became her. So it started off with the fact that, it was like this reporter who was just like reporting on like this one amazing story about this one little girl who, pretty much coming out of the womb was extraordinarily tall. So her mother died giving labor to her because she was just that big. By the time that she was 5, she was just, too big that she was, that the father couldn't keep up. So the father sold her to the circus and everything. By the time she was 13, well, let's just say somewhere about 13, 14, 15, that's when, she started getting notoriety and everything to that magnitude. People started having her in films and all this other stuff. And she made a career being, a movie actress and everything. And the one reporter that been following the story from beginning to end, was making note that it's like, well, somebody need to be in her corner because, without having any family that's remaining or willing to deal with her and everything, she's kind of like out there on her own. But all during this time, there was nothing that was stopping her from growing bigger. So eventually, by the time she got to, I think, like age 23, that's when she kind of like lost sight of reality a little bit. And it got to the point where they tried to deal with her then.
Tried
The
to take her
army and
down.
everything tried to deal with her then, but it didn't work.
Well,
So the way that the story ends is that eventually there was some space explorers coming into the galaxy and everything, and they saw that. It's like, oh, this is weird. How did this Statue of Liberty get here? So they landed and everything, and they was looking around, and it turned out that they landed on her body, on her dead body, out there in space. That's how big she got.
wow.
Yeah, she actually outgrew the Earth.
And of course, then outgrew the Earth in space, she can't breathe.
Right.
So,
So that, these 7 tales were pretty good, and this is like I said, one of my secret go-to type deals in the bigger scheme of things here. So that is very worthwhile here. It's this one's out of print, but I know that they got omnibuses and stuff like that. So if you're ever into like the Eerie series, this is like
and
one of the few Eerie issues that I ever paid attention to.
it's also, for that time, it was one of the few eerie issues done in color for the entire issue.
No, only
Is
that
this
one
the?
story that I told you about.
Oh, they didn't do
There's
the whole.
only one
Okay,
story that was in color.
I thought they had did the whole, because they don't. Eerie did not do a lot of color issues. They did. They would have color covers, and
No,
then the interior would be black and white
no,
or
this
or
issue.
gray.
I'm going to go back to the big screen for a second here. This
Okay,
issue is still black and white,
okay.
except for that one story. Except for
Except
that
that
one
once.
story.
Okay,
I got to find a, yeah, like the issue is
Hmm.
typically all black and white, except for the one story here that I was telling you about, the one where the girl, as a little girl, she kept growing and growing and growing. That
yeah.
was the only story that was in color.
Oh, okay,
Everything else was in black and white. And
okay.
what was weird about it is that the actual story itself starts off in black and white
You're a big girl
and
now.
slowly transitioned into
Into
color.
color.
And then when it ended, we see that the
It's black and
astronauts and
white
everything
again.
that landed on her, and it goes right back to black and white to end.
Hmm.
So that was, like it's very rare that you get any color issues and everything here, but that was kind of like the thing and everything in the bigger scheme of things here. But yes, I think I have another copy of this somewhere, but this is my oldest one here because it had the chip up in it in the cover. But nevertheless, it was a worthwhile read.
Yeah.
And I'm going to verify the one thing that you said, because I believe you're correct. That is a Frank Frazetta cover.
Yes. I have a book of Frazetta art. It's featured in that. I don't know if she's held in King
Yep.
Kong.
Frazetta, all right.
Yep. Frazetta did a lot of Frazetta and I forget his name, but Frazetta did along with books. He actually did a few Eerie covers.
A few
I
what?
think he Frazetta did a few covers for Eerie. He also did a lot of sci-fi novels.
Yes, I know he did a lot of heavy metal, but it was few and far between for Eerie, if I remember correctly.
But he did some. He did a few. Eerie. He did heavy metal. I think he even did an Epic Illustrated. I think. Yeah, I think Starlog had a couple. I think Starlog had an issue that was devoted to artists, and he was featured. Artists in the genre, and he was featured. I know Starlog also had a lot of Ralph McQuarrie. Because Starlog was a fan magazine that came about around the time Star Trek was getting. I mean, that's Star Wars was getting big, and they featured a lot of Ralph McQuarrie's work in those. I used to love Ralph. Ralph McQuarrie did. And in case anybody's sitting there going, "Well, who the hell is Ralph McQuarrie?" If you've ever seen the original 3 Star Wars, Ralph McQuarrie did the concept art for the original 3 movies. He did a lot of the concept art. One of my favorite pieces. In fact, you're too young to remember this. When Star Wars first came out, the art they used, I believe, was a McQuarrie painting. Luke with the lightsaber, Princess Leia, the leg out, the dress. I think that's a McQuarrie piece, if I remember correctly. But he did a lot of his art was associated with Lucas at that time. He did some really amazing pieces. So in fact, I'm trying to think if McQuarrie also worked on Galactica, the original Galactica, I think McQuarrie was on. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not real familiar with Eerie. It was way before my time. I mean, I've heard of it, and I one day want to go back and read some of them. But
there's some great Eerie's. Creepy is also good. Vampirella, and one of the things
Warren did the original Vampirella series.
Yeah.
So if you into Vampirella, you have to go all the way back to the Warren Publishing.
I have a couple of omnibuses of Vampirella, and I think it's got some of that old stuff in it.
I love the fact that it used to be, because Warren did all those 3 books. You know how they always have to ask the editors things? You would ask like the guy from Creepy or whatnot, you would write in and ask them questions, and they were always ragging on each other. So the guy from Creepy would rag on Vampirella and Eerie. The guy from Eerie would rag on Vampirella and Creepy. So I don't know why that amused me as a child and a teenager, but it did.
Yeah, I've started going back, and if I can find them like at a convention in a cheap box, I've started picking up all the old black and white Marvel comics like Conan and the Tomb of Dracula and stuff.
The magazine formatted ones,
yeah,
the ones that they did to
Savage
circumvent
Sword
the
of
Comics
Conan,
Code.
I believe it's called the Savage Sword of Conan.
And whatever the one that had Simon Garth the zombie in it. But after I get those sorted out, I wanted to go back to the old Warren books because I always heard about how good they were.
They have some really interesting stories. One of the things I want to go back to collecting are I would love to go back to collecting some of the old Epic Illustrated. I only have one. There, it's one that they interviewed Barry Windsor Smith, and I love Barry Windsor Smith's work on Conan the Barbarian.
I want to get. I'm a real big Conan fan, but I try really hard to put myself into the mindset of the times to read like the actual Conan Pulps by Robert E. Howard. I have such a hard time getting through some of them
Yeah,
because I'm like, sir, you're racist. I'm sorry, I can't read this.
it's interesting because that was not unheard of. There are a lot of people who didn't read the books because they were uncomfortable with certain aspects, but loved the comics. I didn't read the books, but I loved the comics.
Yeah.
I got into Corum and I cannot remember his name, the albino, from reading that stuff in Epic Illustrated. And
I
then
have
reading, because that's how I got into reading Moorcock. Was
in the on Audible, I have I got an audiobook of the horror stories of Robert E. Howard. And I was listening to some of those, and I tried really hard just to put myself in that time frame. I had to quit listening to it. I was like, man, I have way too many friends this is insulting to. I can't listen to this.
I don't know if you've seen Sinners yet.
I want to. I don't go to the movie theater too
It
often.
is,
I hate people.
well, it will be hopefully, though it has made over 350 million at the box office, which means it's made its 2.5 times. In order for a movie to break even or considered a hit, you have to make 2.5 times what you spent on it. So they've made that and more because Coogler has now it was one of those little red hens where he was shopping it around with Michael B. Jordan, and everybody was like, "Oh, please, someone's going to want to see that. No one's going to want to see that. White folks ain't going to want to see it." I'm watching reaction videos of the Media Knights, who are one of my favorite reaction video couples. They burst into tears at the end, and we're talking a man and woman, and they were both in the fields at the end of this movie. It is a horror film, but it's more than just a horror film. It's a horror film set in a time when it's two twin brothers, both played by Michael B. Jordan, and they're called Smokestack. One is Smoke, one is Stack, and they have returned to their little town in Mississippi after running with Capone in Chicago. Capone has been taken down. They need to get the hell out of town by sundown. And they go back and decide to open up their own juke joint. What would have later been known as a speakeasy. Lots of music, dancing, booze, and tied in with the story of these two men, how they're alike, how they're different, and the choices that they've made. It's this weird little vampire story that gets intertwined with their stories, and it becomes their stories. But one of the things I will tell you, it takes, and you would have to understand the history of the Irish when they came to America in order to get this. But he takes the notion of the lone white savior and flips it on its head. Because the vampire character actually thinks he kind of presents himself as sort of, I'm suffering too, and he's trying to make it like he's saving these people by turning them into vampires, because he makes a comment about how the English invaded Ireland. Because he's like, yeah, some white men came into my country, and I just bust out laughing at that because I know the history of the Irish. Ken Burns did a great documentary series called The Irish in America, and having watched that, it's like, yeah, right, okay, I see you. And Coogler did too. That was the whole point of it. But he tries to present himself as a great white savior, and it's like, yeah, right. But Michael B. Jordan plays both these brothers exceptionally well. The two women that he works with in this film it is a stellar, there is not a bad performance in this movie. It is. This is something you realize people went into it with their whole hearts. And Coogler put it all up on that screen. His cinematographer was a woman. And I was watching it going, oh, who are you? You know, shall I go sacrifice a small town in your honor? So you will teach me your skills. Like I said, he puts it on that screen. Considering they worked with a small budget compared to if Disney or Universal or Warner Brothers or any of the big studios, Paramount and whatnot, had fully funded this, they couldn't have made a better film.
Yeah. I've heard it's really good.
It is exceptionally good. And I love the fact that the few white people I've seen do reaction videos have understood that he wasn't making this movie. It's not that he wasn't making it for a white audience, but at the same time, he also wasn't like, it's not that you can't like this story, it just ain't about you.
Right.
Just like with when he did Black Panther, it's like, it's not, it's not like you can't like this story. It just ain't about you. And he's inspired me in my own work to try to take that attitude of, it's not that you can't enjoy this piece. It just ain't focusing on you. There's other things.
Black Panther is my favorite Marvel movie. I love it.
I have surprisingly met quite a few white people who have told me that, oh my God, I love Black Panther. Went to the first Wakanda Con. My understanding is a lot of them went to Wakanda Con because they just wanted to be part of the celebration.
And I got such a big kick out of one of my wife's friends. Her husband is one of these, he's a self-styled comic book fan. And I told him that because we went to see the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. And when it was over, we were talking about it. I made the comment that Black Panther is my favorite of the Marvel movies. And he goes, it was all right, but it was a little too African for me. It's like, it's called Black Panther.
It's freaking set in Africa. I'm not, You thought it was going to be a bunch of white folks speaking Afrikaans?
So that's become a running joke between me and my wife. We'll every once in a while go, that was too African for us.
Well, Marvel, because I guess enough white boys have complained about turning traditionally white characters black. That there is a new, I've seen the picture. There's a new Black Panther.
White
and
dude.
They drew him to look like Chris Evans.
Yep.
And I remember sitting there looking at it, it's like, I hope Chris Evans hasn't seen this, because from what I know of Chris Evans, he would be insulted.
And
I know Chris Evans is exceptionally insulted by that.
My wife just heard me tell that story, and she texted me to remind me that my brother-in-law, her brother-in-law is the same way, and he got into a spirited debate with a friend of mine about this is when the Avengers movies were coming out, about the Infinity Gems.
Oh no!
And he was convinced that the yellow Infinity Stone showed up in the Green Lantern movie first.
Okay.
And And my friend was sitting there.
It
He was
showed
trying to-
the Infinity Stone showed up, and let me guess, Ryan Reynolds was wearing.
No, because he and my friend was trying to be really polite. It's like, no, that's no, those different universes, blah blah blah. And he's like, no, see, because the bad guy in Green Lantern was yellow, and the yellow Infinity Stone had. And my friend just goes, no, damn it.
See,
That is hilarious.
y'all would have had to put me out because, oh no, baby, I would have. Oh no, it
Yeah.
would have
See,
been fighting words.
I'm evil. I would have been like, yeah, okay, I got you. I understand. I would just let him keep thinking that way. I'm not going to argue with people who just can't get off of stupid.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't fix it, stupid. You just gotta let stupid run off that cliff and go. I'll make sure whoever survives you, it understands that
The aura,
stupid is what killed you.
the yellow rings of fear has nothing to do with the yellow Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
He'd have made more sense if he'd have tried to say the 10 rings for the Infinity Stone.
I'm trying to think of it. The yellow one was reality.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's up here like the reality stone was the fear stone. Was the fear was the source of the fear lantern. No.
Yeah.
Sorry. No. Besides, where has DC ever wrote anything for Marvel?
There was the crossover between Teen Titans
and X-Men.
And the X-Men.
No,
Now,
but not to the degree of, okay, we created this over here in Green Lantern that's going to be shared in a mega crossover for Marvel called Infinity Gauntlet.
Now, to defend this brother-in-law, he was also the one that when we were talking about professional wrestling one day, and I was talking about how many people in the WWE were on steroids. He said to me with a straight face, well, John Cena, his body's all natural because, he was a Marine and they don't let you do that stuff.
Okay. I'm gonna be good.
So he's still the dude that still believes that Sergeant Slaughter was literally a sergeant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just like, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. By God, okay.
And Big Boss Man was a prison guard in Cobb County, Georgia.
That's right.
I've seen Stupid. Yeah. I've seen Stupid, but that would give Stupid a run for. I mean, that's a whole new category of stupid.
He was a Marine.
His heart's in the right place.
Did he vote Republican?
I'm not sure, but as my mama would say, he's special.
Yeah, he's very special.
He's very special.
John Cena is like John Cena is a Marine. The Marines don't allow that to happen.
Oh my goodness. I'd forgotten Cena had been in the Corps.
Well, he really wasn't. It was just that movie, The Marine.
Oh, that's right.
He did one,
and he wasn't
in the Corps. He just did the movie. That's right. Okay.
He did the one movie called The Marine.
And
what's messed up about it is, do you know who starred in the second one and took over the franchise?
The Miz.
Exactly. So now is your brother-in-law going to say, yeah, the Miz is a Marine too?
I don't think he knows who the Miz is. I just think he knows who John Cena is.
John Cena was a Marine.
Oh my goodness. Well,
yes.
I have to make sure if I ever run across him, I don't jump up in his face and yell. That's our mating call.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Marine Corps mating call. You see a bunch of guys go, and the one woman that turns around goes back. It's our mating call. Sorry.
Anyway, it's safe to say to that brother-in-law is that he could never process that in the right jar. It's safe to say that to him because he will have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Wow, John Cena is a Marine.
And they don't let you take steroids. Okay. He's never seen Marine Corps bodybuilders.
Again, people who don't believe that the military has a such thing called vitamin M.
Yeah.
Do you know what vitamin M is, Cliff?
No, sir.
It is a little bitty known drug called Motrin. If
Hmm.
anything hurts, give him some vitamin M. He'll be okay.
No, you know what I lived on?
What?
Tiger Balm.
Yeah.
I would
Mm.
not have made it through boot camp had it not been for Tiger Balm. In fact, I think at least 2/3 of the women in our company on some sort of regular basis, if we smelled of
Y'all flatted up
anything,
every other night, huh?
because
Yeah.
in boot camp you can't wear perfume, and
Right.
in the Marines, of course, you're not supposed to be wearing a bunch of perfume. I think if you work in an office, you can wear perfume, but it's a very limited number of ones that you can wear. Though I was at a store, women from the local recruiting office over on 71st Street. Them girls was coming out there in dreads. I had to grab one and say, "Excuse me, are you just wearing the fatigues for the wearing it?" And she goes, "Oh no, we can wear." I'm like, "Oh my god, no." I got this weird. It was like I had a brain aneurysm because I swear I wanted to grab them dreads and snip them all off. It's like that is not regulation. And she's
That
like, "Oh, it's the regulation now."
it's
I
a regulation for recruiting, not
Mhm.
for those
For
that are doing
everyday
active.
soldiers, it's because they've all. I think since they've started getting more women in recruiting, they've gotten a little more loose with their regulations. Not
Not
more
really.
women
Not
in the
really.
service, but I'm saying in recruiting because, like I
In
said,
recruiting, yes. In recruiting, yes.
they had the long braids and stuff, and that's like, no, sweetie, it's like I'm from the day when we used to have to wrestle dinosaurs for our breakfast to get your morning chow, and so you couldn't. When I was in the Marines, if you wore your hair down, it couldn't go below the top of your collar.
Exactly.
And if you had you could wear braids, but it had to be two braid, either one braid or two braids, and then they had to be in a bun at the back. And in the Marines, you couldn't show rubber bands like in the Navy. Our drill instructors used to show us picture of Navy women in the Navy, little wins
Uh-huh.
when they would have they would show us pictures of other women in the service, and they could have like hairpins and stuff showing.
Yeah,
And in the
berets and stuff,
Marines,
yeah.
we couldn't have that. You could pin your hair up, but your hairpins could not show. You want to wear a ponytail, it had to be in a bun. The rubber band or whatever you tied your hair up with cannot show. Neither can the hairpins. I had in boot camp, I had a bunkmate. She was in the bunk across from me. She had long blonde hair. I had very long hair. We would get up in the morning and check each other's hair so that we were regulation.
Mhm.
And she got sick. I didn't have her to check my hair. And Sergeant Monty, my senior drill instructor, just walked up to me with her cover down here, looking up at me, even though she stood taller than me. She always did that. She said, "You will get your hair cut now, won't you, Haygood?" It's like, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You will do it soon." "Yes, ma'am." Like, hello. It's like, oh, okay. You want me to?
More along the lines. Why are you still here talking to me?
Why are you standing there? So I had to go to the salon on base. My mother, I came home after graduation, took my cover off, my cami cover. My mother fell on the floor. I had never seen her do this before. She fell on the floor screaming. She then got up and she picked up the phone and she called my recruiter and cussed him out for 30 minutes straight. Because that man told her I wouldn't have to cut my hair.
Hmm.
And she was like, "Why is your hair like that?" It's like, "Because I had to cut it." She said, "You had to." It's like, "Well, I didn't cut it, but yeah, I was told I had to go get my hair cut so I could be regulation." And she didn't say another word to me. She just picked. She's like, "What's that number again?" She had his card. She picked up his card, dialed his number, and just. I knew my mama knew some curse words, but I picture him crying when she hung that phone up. She just, what she said about his mama just would have been like, and then she called my grandma. She called my great aunt. She called just about everybody she knew. She came home. She ain't got no hair no more. She might as well be bald. She was telling people I was bald. My great aunt invited me to go to a movie where her, she goes, "You still have hair?" It's like, "Yes, I still have hair." She goes, "Your mama said you were bald." Like, oh, like a man. You didn't think she just came back from Vietnam? I think by the second day of her complaining, I was complete. My head was shaven completely bald.
You were full GI Jane.
No, I was Isaac Hayes. I mean, clean.
Oh wow. No
And-
stubble, just clean.
And then to make it worse, my mother is shorter than me, and camouflage uniforms, unlike dress uniforms that are fitted, they're made to fit you. The dress uniform that I wore couldn't be unless you had pretty much my same dimensions. So you can't borrow each other's uniforms because when you go to get your dress uniform done, your dress greens or whatnot, they come and professional seamstresses, they come and they measure you and whatnot. So that uniform fits you. Camouflage uniforms, on the other hand, are a little different, and they're a little forgiving. You can gain a few pounds, you can lose a few pounds. They adjust. And I'm saying this because my mother, I had bought, because our drill instructor said, "Okay, all of your boot camp camis, you can take them to your duty stations, but to make sure you pass inspection, buy 6 sets of uniforms. 3 that you wear for work, and 3 that you clean and press and put in your locker and you never touch. That way you will pass your inspection." First thing my mother did after she freaked out about my hair, I had my sea bag. I'm opening my sea bag as she's getting off her last call, and she immediately stole my uniforms. I had to it's like, "Those are my brand new uniforms. I just bought those. Here, you can have these uniforms. Been through with me through boot camp. You can wear those. You can't wear these because there are certain things about the uniform. You can't change that. Please don't. I'm not going to jail for you." But yeah, first thing her second thing for complaining about my hair was steal uniforms. She stole my Not only did she steal my camouflage uniforms, she took the pair of boots I had. She took my combat boots. I wear size 7. She wears a size 9. She squeezed her big old size 9 hoofs into my size 7 combat boots, and the next day went to work. Camouflage gear. She didn't ask me to come. She just wanted to wear a uniform. I had to make sure that I had blacked out all the stamped on insignias and stuff, because like I told her, it's like, "No, I'm not going to jail for you."
Yeah, just the simple fact of taking the time to rip the patches and stuff off of them, off of them. You could probably leave Hey Good on there, but all the other stuff, the patches and everything, you got to take off.
Well, in boot camp, you don't get a lot of patches, but
So you didn't have to have your unit patch and all the other stuff on your uniform like we did.
the only thing I had on my camis, I had one pair of camis that I had earned my PFC by working recruiting command before I went in.
Mhm.
So I graduated as a PFC, and so there's the ceremony when they give you the device for your cover,
Uh-huh.
the Marine Corps thingy. It's called the device. They give it to you. You put it on. You put it on what we call the Trojan helmet, which is the dress greens
Right.
um, headgear. Um, and then you after the ceremony, you are then I got my device, and I got my first, as a PFC you get your first thingy, your for the the
Okay.
cross rifles.
Right.
And so they give you those so that you can pin them on your
On your collar,
on your
your
collar,
tail,
and then
on
you
your tail.
put that on your cover. So you don't have any patches until you get your duty station. Boot
Okay.
camp,
See,
you don't
we
have.
had unit patches before we got to do duty stations.
No, luckily, but before that they had stamped our camouflage headgear it was a stamp of the Marine Corps emblem.
Right.
So, and I had to explain to her that the things I had that had stuff stamped on them, I had to black those out because they made sure prior to our graduation to explain you're probably going to go home and there's at least one or two relatives or a loved one or something who's going to want to wear your uniform. And understand, they're not going to have respect for the uniform or the traditions that we've instilled in you. So you don't go to jail. You have to make sure that certain things are changed. So when they're wearing your uniform shirt and your cover and your shirt and their shirts all open and their t-shirt showing, if it has your stuff on it, you can go to jail.
Yeah, kind of like my beret here that I still have.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't have my insignia that's supposed to go on there.
You don't have your insignia device.
Right.
I had to black out the ones they stamped on my covers from boot
I'm
camp.
still surprised that it actually still fits too.
I had an extra name tag. She took my name tag, but because it didn't have any rank on it, it didn't have anything that would identify it as a Marine Corps object. And it was just a name tag that said, "Hey, good." So it was like something you pin on the breast. So she could wear that. So she went in my uniform, barely able to walk in my my boots.
Now, this is my academy one. When I actually was a cadet in the actual Air Force Academy here, because I
You
still
have
got
that stuff?
yep, I still got
Oh my goodness.
I still got it. It's still in pretty decent shape because I don't hardly wear it. I don't think I could fit into the pants anymore. But
Okay.
I still got that, and I still got my dress blues.
See, I never got a set of dress blues. I had the green. I had the dress greens because you get that set. Everybody gets a set of dress greens because that's where you wear for graduation. And for women, you get slacks and the skirt.
There's my blues for when I was stationed at the prep school here. These insignias, these insignia lapels mean nothing, but there's my the enlisted man pins that we had to wear and everything.
Okay. Now, if somebody were to grab his jacket and try to wear it outside, he would have to take these U.S. pins off. He would have to black out.
I would have to take these two pins, the two
Yeah,
U.S.
you
pins
have to
off
take
here.
those pips off. You have to black out the
No,
things.
this means nothing.
Okay.
That's pretty much what everybody had at the prep school to actually wear. If I had the pins on here,
you'd have to take the pins
I
off.
have to take them off.
Yes. No, my mother wanted a set of my pips, and it's like, no, you cannot wear my rank. You know, I'll let you have my name. I had to go to, in fact, I had to go to Great Lakes Naval Station and have them. I had to buy an extra nameplate because she wouldn't give it back to me. When I came home on leave before shipping out to Okinawa, one of the great things about being on base is we have these PXs, and there's the main PX, and then depending on where you're stationed, there's a little sort of corner store type PX. And Ocean Pacific, because I was stationed. Oh, she's adorable.
This is my Grayson.
Hi, Grayson.
Say hi.
I'm the crazy old lady who makes your daddy nuts.
And that's Joe.
That's a chair. Joe's a chair.
Okay. She wanted to come say hi. So.
Hi. Thank you for coming. I can't get my kids to come at all. Well, what's on his shirt?
Oh, this is she's my little rocker chick, and this is a Japanese metal band called Lady Beard.
Oh, cool.
So yeah. Yes. Say bye. You gotta go take a shower.
Bye. She's adorable. You keep making her sound like some sort of monster.
No, the baby's the monster. You haven't met. She's in the cage right now.
She's in the cage. Oh no.
Yeah.
I never put you in a cage. I just chase after you. Courtney's sitting there like, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to just sit here and stare at my computer and act like you don't exist until you go away.
Yeah. No, our youngest is she's hell on wheels. So
my sister, I love her. I used to spend a lot of money on my sister when I was in the Corps. When she graduated 8th grade, I wanted to make sure that, people knew that she had a big sister who was thinking of her. So I found this card that stood about 3 feet tall, graduation card, and sent her. I also sent her a bouquet of roses that was about 3 feet tall. Because that was the best thing about being on base. You could go, you wanted to send flowers, FTD would give you all sorts of discounts. Go in uniform. Hi there, I want to send flowers to my sister.
Okay. Since you have the power now, I'm going to let you go ahead and continue on because we've got 2 hours and 45 minutes here.
Oh, we're off. Okay. So, but yeah, I sent her that. And then when they first came out with those Pac-Man things, the tabletop Pac-Mans and stuff, I bought her a Pac-Man, which my mom took from her. But I came home with a bunch of, I don't know if you've heard of Ocean Pacific. They used to do the most gorgeous t-shirts. And I had a collection of Ocean Pacific t-shirts, about 30 of them. Because you could buy them for next to nothing if you got them on base. When I left and my sister, she had already figured out how to get me. She was in high school by that point. And I would sleep in because I wasn't on base. I wasn't on duty. So she would get up early in the morning and ask me, hey, you got $20? So yeah, okay, fine. It's in the wallet. She spent an entire week. She got like $100 and something out of me. And I had got invited to go out and realized I didn't have any money. And I'm like, where'd my money go? And I'm like yelling, because I'm like telling my mother, I got robbed. Where's my money? And we finally got my sister to admit, well, I was getting up in the morning and, I realized if I get up early enough, And like if there was something you would and asked you for money, you would give it to me. So every day she was asking me for $20 or more. And what she was doing is because back then kids could leave school for lunch.
Hmm.
And the school she was at, they could take the bus to go to Greek Town, which is on the western edge of downtown Chicago, and get gyros. So about she and 3 or 4 other friends were going to Greek Town, and she was treating them to gyros with my leave money.
There you go.
She also when I got to Okinawa, I also found out she stole half my jeans and my Ocean Pacific. After going, these are not. I forgot what brand of jeans they weren't supposed to. They weren't that were big at the time, and these aren't whatever T-shirts. She didn't stole half my jeans and T-shirts. It's like, oh, woman, I'm gonna kill you. Anyway, Joe has shut down. He is done. I have to shut us down, so you get to say good night.
Good night.
I was gonna, put
No,
you on.
I'm behind the scenes doing other stuff because we're supposed to be off the air by now. I have to try to take care of other things now, so that's the reason why I was off camera.
Well, you want me to solo lay out and then leave?
Well, we still got commercials and stuff that we have to run here, so
Well, I don't have those. Okay, so I will give us started. Let me hit solo layout.
Yeah.
I can do that now. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spending this time with us in this very special episode of Comic Book Spectrum. The what I read when I ain't doing nothing else issue. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for liking us. Thank you for staying with us. If you are watching us later, we love you too. Okay? Come back. See us often. Dream about me because you know you want to. Bye.
And now for Cliff.
Thank you. Come again. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you didn't, I'm sorry. I just thought it'd be a good idea. We'll see you next time. Come visit me in Olive Branch.
And it was a great idea and it worked. So I'm not worried about that here. But nevertheless, Comic Book Spectrum is still brought to you by our sponsor, Plasma Fire Graphics. When you're looking for somebody to actually do great covers for your upcoming comic or your novel, hit up Jeffrey Hayes at Plasma Fire Graphics. If you don't believe me on his quality here, well, I don't know why the camera is leaning that way now, but we're going to fix that real quick. If you don't believe me, take a look at this particular video.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
You've seen the pages, not pages, you've seen the covers. Have this award-winning artist make your book sing by allowing Jeffrey Hayes to do your next cover. Just contact him on plasmafiregraphics.com or his Facebook group for Plasma Fire Graphics. As far as I'm concerned, I will be back here on Saturday for another episode from the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. What we're going to talk about, I don't know. But until then, unlike Brian K. Morris, I don't care if you wash your hands, but never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. And as I always say, live life, grow, and be well. And we're out of here. And thank you for watching Comic Book Spectrum.